At 6:30, today is September 18th, 2024, and we do have a quorum of the Board of Directors for Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1. There's no one calling in, everybody's here, so we're going to go into citizens' comments. This will be an opportunity for citizens to address the board on any matter, whether or not it is posted on the agenda. The board is not permitted to take action on or discuss any comments made to the board at this time concerning an item not listed on the agenda. The board will hear comments on specific agenda items prior to the board addressing those items. You may speak up to 4 minutes or the time limit determined by the president or presiding officer. To speak during this item, you must complete the speaker's form. It's the blue forms on the back table there. That includes the topics of your statements. Citizens' comments should be limited to matters over which the board has authority. Do we have anybody to speak?
No, sir.
Okay, we're going to go into 1, which is Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1 will conduct a public hearing regarding adoption of proposed district tax of .06250 for the 2024 tax year, and this item will be open. You said I had to read something, right, Lori?
I gave you a sheet that would just...
Sorry. Okay, we will now hold public hearing, adoption of tax rate, I just said that, and again, it's .06250 per $100 of assessed valuation. This is a decrease of .00131 from the 2023 tax year. And again, the public hearing is open at 6:32. Do we have anyone that wishes to speak? They could add a couple more zeros on there, couldn't they? Anyone? Okay, I see no one. So we will just call it closed at 6:33. With no one speaking. Did I cover that? Okay. Okay. Attorney?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next is reports and updates. Agenda number 2, staff reports. Capital improvement projects is A. Operations report is B. And finance reports is C. You got the floor, Alan.
Good evening, directors. Capital improvement project updates tonight. The pump station improvement project, we've seen a lot of movement this last month. Currently, we do have the new variable frequency drives installed for pumps number 2 and 3. The installation of the new 2 and 3 pumps, discharge heads, and control valves are expected to be installed maybe next week or the week after. We're still waiting on a final date for those to be set in place. Concrete replacement and some of the sod reestablishment has been in place over there. They did that earlier this week. And the electrical contractor's working on finalizing the connectivity for those new pumps. And we expect that over the next month, we'll begin working towards final cleanup and startup. So that one's moving along well. The FY 2024 water line project is also moving along well. The pipe replacement along Sonora is about 95% complete, but going by there today, they're just about all the way to Village Trail. So they've just about got 100% of that line in on Sonora. The Mesa Verde Court, Paladera Court, and Pagosa Court are all 100% complete, and the majority of that sod and replacement has been in place as they're progressing through the project. The contractor did begin working on Inverness Drive. They started potholing existing water mains and services. They've got the temporary water lines installed and bored across for those service lines, but they'll probably start testing and chlorinating that temporary line next week as well. Wastewater treatment plants.
Alan, can
Yes.
I ask a question
Yes.
about Inverness? I drove by there a couple times, and do we always put a sign out that says work being done by Mud 1?
Typically, there's a construction sign. They just haven't moved it over there yet.
All right. How many signs do we have? Because we're doing work in multiple areas, and
you
it's a
talked to them
chance
about
to
moving
tell our story. I mean,
Yeah, they're supposed to have one at each site. They just haven't moved one over there yet.
okay.
The wastewater treatment plant CIP improvement project, that one has been complete. There's actually a startup and walk through tomorrow morning scheduled for that. So staff is ready to get that in place and operating. South Lake Emergency Connection, we still have yet to receive a response from the city of South Lake. Other than that, be happy to answer any questions regarding operations or finance reports.
I've got one.
Yes.
This is almost a personal nature. Who are we buying our sod from when we replace the yards?
Well, it depends on the contractor's vendor. Most of the sod replacement is part of the contract, and it's vendor's choice.
Okay, because on the fiber optic, I've been requesting from the town now for 3 weeks about the sod problem. And just figured I'd just go buy it myself.
Understood. If you reach out to town staff, they should be responding to requests such as
It's
yours.
out to Mike 4 times now. Cox.
Oh, Matt
Matt
Cox?
Cox.
Matt Cox, yeah. Sent 4 emails, no response.
Okay. I'm not aware of who the contractor's using, but I know that we have an AT&T contact that I can send over to you. That might help you.
Thank you.
On the Mesa Verde, I saw in your update or an email you sent out to the board that they had a little bit of fire there.
Yeah, it appears that someone may have set the portable toilet on fire over there, and it melted down. I think that was early Sunday morning.
Okay. So it didn't damage any equipment, just burned the
No, not
porta
that
potty
we're
down?
not that we're aware of. It was sitting next to the disposal dumpster.
Yeah. Okay, anybody have any other questions on the updates and reports? Okay, moving on. Consent agenda. All matters listed on consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Directors and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. The first consent agenda on 3 is consider an act to approve the consent agenda August 21st, 2024, regular meeting minutes. Do we have any changes on those minutes?
I had none.
I'm looking at Bill, he's usually the one. Okay, Doug?
No, I'm good.
Ben, you good?
No.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, item A.
A motion to approve the consent agenda A, August 21st, 2024, for regular meeting minutes.
Okay, I have a motion by Secretary Treasurer Harper, and I have a second, was it you? By Director Thomas. All in favor, show of hands. Okay, unanimous. Moving on, a regular session, agenda item 4, introduction of Association of Water Board Director, Representative Linda Backlund. Is that how you pronounce it? Okay. Just if you step up and state your name.
Not used to doing this. You guys are fancy.
You can do like a rapper and talk.
I'll try to do this correctly. So thank you for inviting me to come and speak to you guys. I've been the North Texas trustee for the Association of Water Board Directors since 2021, right after Guy was rolling off, and you were Guy's predecessor from what I heard. So I've been really excited with coming on the board. They got me at the perfect time. I retired in February, so I was still in that work mode. So I jumped in and they said, grow North Texas, and that's kind of what I've been doing. So I don't know if you've noticed over the past couple of years, AWBD has a tremendous program. Lots of education. It's great for a lot of new directors that are coming in. They're new to the organization. It's been fantastic. In North Texas, we've kind of been not really a stepchild. They consider us when they're naming topics, but we hear about hurricanes so often. We're like, we want something else. And so I've actually had the support of the board and really developed it was like a 3-year plan of how we were going to start introducing information. And so I want to say this year has just been a huge success. At the beginning of January, I laid out a complete calendar of networking opportunities. These are casual kind of meet and greets where people are coming together. Directors may bring their spouses, and people just get to talk to each other. Consultants come, and then I had a director at the last one that moved from Houston. And so she was talking about she had no idea how she was going to find a board in North Texas. And they told her, well, you're going to be there at a perfect time. And so we were able to connect her with a few people. And so I've gotten tremendous support from our consultants. The playing field that's been going on in North Texas has really been growing. The number of MUDs that we have up here it's insane. They're popping up everywhere, and I'm doing my best to kind of keep the tab so that way I can keep the momentum going. So in addition to the networking opportunities, which I started in 23 with like 3 or 4, we did more this year. This year I was also able to put in a program. And so we are having the first in a very long time, an actual formal program with a panel of 4 speakers and a seated dinner. I'm like, wow, we're like big boys now. So anyway, but the panel's going to be fantastic. We have an attorney from Coates Rose, an engineer from Kimley Horn, a finance specialist from Baird, and then we also brought in a developer because we thought, how can we really talk to people that are new in the mud without giving them the full picture? And so we have put that together. They've all agreed, and we're having a kickoff meeting to really highlight the nuances for them. Now, the good thing is most of these people have been working in the North Texas area for quite a while. But what we wanted to do was take that program that AWPD did in 2017 that said MUDs are good for Texas and really highlight it to our new MUDs that are coming in that really can't see that vision. You know, when they hear about your tax rate's going to be super low, like you guys. My tax rate hearing was kind of the opposite. We were like, just 98 cents if you round it per 100. And that's where a lot of people are. And so what we want to do in this session is really highlight to people of this is where it's going to go. Hang with it. If you have questions, these are the different people you can ask for. It's all about the networking and the contacts, letting people have someone to reach out to. So that's kind of what I've been doing in North Texas. And I don't know if you guys have any specific questions or any ways that I might be able to help you.
Linda, do you have a published calendar of events that we can get access to?
We did that for all of this year. This next one is the last one for the year, but I can send it over to you. I hope to have another one for January before we get to midwinter, so that everyone has what's going to happen for the whole year.
Well, I would personally love to have a copy of this one.
And that was my thought. People need it on a list, not just think about it, like a month before, 3 or 4 weeks before, and then you throw something out there. So definitely there will be one coming.
Ben?
A couple of them. A couple months ago, you had a webinar on microgrids. Mm-hmm. And CenterPoint Energy was noted as applying for a $2 billion grant to put a prototype together, and the prototype would kind of be the size that we need. Can you give us an update on that?
Not specifically to those details, but I can get back to you. But I will say that is an example of new webinars we started this year, which are industry specific, because we are listening to the surveys and the feedback we get from people. So specifically for that one, I'll get more of an update for you from the executive director and get back to you.
I thought it was outstanding. Some forward, long-range thinkers in this town have put together an infrastructure that is, immune to electrical failure. There are backup generators on the lift stations, the wastewater treatment, the main pumps, and assuming that water continues to flow from Fort Worth, we'd be pretty self-sufficient. But the next question that I think was raised was, can utilities like the MUD supply electricity if there's an extended outage, if the grid, the U.S. grid goes down? And that's an interesting thing to be thinking about.
It really is, because I think we've really been, everyone that has the treatment plants is always looking for how can I keep that uptime, because we all know a glitch and your water can be contaminated if you don't have proper backup systems. But for other avenues, like how do you take care of like you guys have a fire station? How do you keep your fire station going? Are they specified where they're always going to have their power? So yeah, I think it's fantastic. And like I said, I'll get you more information on that specific.
The second area is parks. Statutorily, MUDs can participate in supporting parks. And in fact, there was a recent, it could have been the webinar or maybe the main conference, but there was a MUD that had total responsibility for parks and recreation. What do you see going on there?
Actually, and it's interesting because the park bonds have not been authorized for the North Texas area yet. In fact, that's something we've talked about discussing and looking for when we get to legislation this coming year to see how maybe we can expand it. What we're experiencing, because I live in McKinney, in Trinity Falls, in McKinney Mud 1 and 2. It's two muds put together. And we actually have 350 acres of park, 16 miles of biking and hiking trails. We have a 21 basket disc golf course, and we do have to do that day-to-day maintaining. And in fact, they're growing staff to be able to do groundskeeping and also do some of the repairs, which I think you guys have some of that. But that is something that's new and different that a lot of muds in Houston had never even heard of. When I joined the board and I told them what we had, they're like, what? No. So it's really just, it's a wonderful time to be in it, so.
You have a treatment plan up there?
We don't. We actually just do all of our water and wastewater directly from the city of McKinney.
The chemicals in the water?
For the lakes, we do, because we have several lakes, and so we treat our lakes to keep them safe because they're on the East Fork of the Trinity River. But the actual water and wastewater is all city of McKinney work.
So
And
you
we do
rely
that.
on the treatment of whoever you buy it from? Where we
Yes.
buy from Fort Worth, and we don't rely on that. We have our own treatment plan.
Well, see, that's an extra hop. Ours is a retail service from City of McKinney. City of McKinney is getting it from the North Texas Municipal Water District, which would be, I think, your equivalent. You guys are going directly, where we have like a couple of hops.
Yeah, and we also have a treatment plan, obviously. And I don't know if you could work with Alan or someone could, if you have meetings in the area and someone wants to see a state-of-the-art treatment plant, the membrane, they could probably work with Alan. He could give them what do we charge, about $25 a ticket?
Head. No, that's fantastic. In
Have
fact,
to
that's what
pay
I was
for it.
telling Alan. I think you guys would be a great case that I can use in North Texas to highlight people and say, look, here's one that they do this. I love seeing the fire station with your actual mud name on it. Mine, we built a fire station. We paid for all of it, including the training of the firefighters, but it has the City of McKinney name on it. And so we just conveyed it to them. But I'm like, I kind of like this look.
Yeah, like Jim's been around forever. We used to mention you had 2 muds. We had 3. Jim was actually on the mud 3. That rolled into a mud 2. And you're talking about the tax rate, what was the tax, like 68, 70 cents and stuff at that time? And you have, when you're starting off, your taxes. But within, I guess it was 2000 or something like that.
Yeah, but it was closer to that.
2010 was the final conversion of everything, that we merged all the muds because we had to have a master mud, and then each of the muds would meet, and it got ridiculous on paying attorney fees and staff time and all that. So, and now our tax rate, you heard what it was and stuff. And then we also, we still own the building, the fire station. We built it, and it was a turnkey deal, but the town manages the employees of it for the retirement benefits. So that's where we're at.
Speaking of parks and recs, can you tell me how you fund that? Do you take those funding dollars out of your water, wastewater line items, or do you have a separate funding line?
Actually, the way ours is happening is because a developer built all of it. So it's really, right now, we have the bonds that we're issuing to pay the developer back for the things that are allowed. But then our other part of our taxes is what's covering the day-to-day operations and maintenance.
So you use taxes to fund?
That's
Okay.
really our only, for all intents and purposes, and I know my attorney will probably yell at me for saying it, but I think for all intents and purposes, it's our tax dollars that we use because we have a few franchise here and there. Commercial is just starting, and City of McKinney will get the revenue from the tax, but we will get like 0.02, like maybe 2 cents of that tax dollar back in our funds. But we really haven't developed a second or an outside source of revenue. We had talked about, once we got our staff up and going to maintain all of our common grounds for the part that was mud, that perhaps we would offer it as a service to the HOA for the common grounds that the HOA is responsible for. But I think we're still pretty far from even talking about that with the HOA.
Thank you.
It'd be beneficial if the AWBD would be active in monitoring available grants. There's not many for the muds and stuff, but anything helps, as far as if you have a project or an improvement needed. And we had some available with Denton, and it turned out that we didn't qualify. Even though we have fire, the town does the EMS side, and they got a grant, and we weren't eligible to do that. But if they could get more aggressive in the grant monitoring and let the MUDs know, it'd be very helpful, because as you know, there's a lot of, when we started, went to AWBD meetings back in the early 2000s, and there's very few MUDs. I mean, you go there, you could meet in one small room, and now it's ridiculous. I mean, it's really well attended. And then you have all the Denton MUDs. I mean, I don't know what number they're up to now.
Well, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area alone, we have almost 300 MUDs
Yeah.
already.
Wow, now, 300.
Now.
Yeah.
And if I go into all the counties that are the entire North Texas region, then we're up closer to 400 or 500. So it really has grown. But that's a very interesting point, and I actually can take that one to see what I can do, because that is something we haven't done. We haven't put our fingers into grants or monitoring for grants, but I know there are several MUDs in the area that are looking for grants. And in fact, some MUDs are sending individuals to training on how to
Grant
find
writing.
it and write the grants. I actually did that. When I retired, I took a grant writing course.
Yeah.
Just for kicks and grins.
I'm glad to see some of the things you're doing. The term stepchild really hit a point with me. I can remember what I had to do with the board to let them allow us to fund and pay for a major event up here. And we actually finally had one. It was very successful, but because we were thought of as a stepchild, we just couldn't do it over and over and over. And I'm really glad to see that you're putting some of that in place.
Another unique thing about the Trophy Club MUD is we go into another city, Westlake. It's another county, another city. So we have Trophy Club, and then we have Westlake that we service, because we put all the infrastructure in back in the IBM days, the early IBM days in the 80s. So, anybody have anything else?
Well, just a quickie. You're hosting an event on October 10th.
It's on the Monday.
October?
Yeah, it is October. I'd have to look at the date. It's a Monday.
Yeah, well, and the title is Why MUDs Are Good for North Texas.
Yes.
Can you give us a little tickler on that?
Absolutely. And so, and Jim, you might remember this, in 2017, AWBD did this program on MUDs are good for Texas because they grow. You're able to create places that couldn't support an infrastructure because the towns were small. And so we're taking that program and kind of shaking it up and revamping it to what it's like here in North Texas and how we can highlight things. And so the panel, like I said, will have an attorney, an engineer, a finance person, a developer.
Okay.
And I have actually prepared a list already of, here are all the points that they used in the 2017, and here is kind of what we need to do or spin it or think about it as we present it to the North Texas people, because they're just completely different on where they are at this point in time. And but I was really excited. All my speakers are North Texas people. Actually, and also when I talked about I've doubled my consultants in North Texas, that was only accounting for brand new AWBD members that had never been members before. But a lot of the big boys that were down in Houston have now opened up locations up here. So we have Infomark, we've got ABHR, we've got trying to think of, Mac is actually coming up. So we're getting all kinds of businesses that are moving into the space because they know the demand is here. And you're right, sitting in that boardroom when I first started talking about, okay, this is what I want to do for North Texas, it's like, maybe. I sit in the conferences programs committee, and when we talk about topics, I'm like, here's what we need to do. And I love it because they try to tell me, no, it's not really like that. I'm like, no, it is. And that's how I was able to get the topic at our summer conference, because we talked about policing services. And so I don't know if you guys know, but the Elmridge Wicked, which used to be one of the Denton freshwater MUDs, actually went off and hired their own police staff. And so it's full-blown. They're building their building that will have, and he got on me because I called it the wrong thing. It's not like a detention cell. It's a temporary holding cell. So if they pick someone up, they have a place to put them until they can transfer them off to the county. But they're doing some cutting-edge stuff. I don't know if you guys have gotten into that space, but yeah, so they have a police chief, and he has his staff. They do SRO work, they do community work. They've also been able to work and develop what they call regulations now, because I think in our mud world, we call things ordinances, like a park ordinance, or a sidewalk, don't cross, don't park blocking, whatever. Well, he's made some headway in how he's been able to craft language and gotten the approval from the county to enforce some of the things that have been, that's a pinpoint for a mud, and you feel like your hands are tied because no one will enforce it. So there's just been a lot of changes and things going on. But I was excited to put that panel on
Good show.
that had everybody's.
You just really wanted to know what the
The
menu
Mondays in
was, didn't you?
October are 7, 14, 21, and 28. By any chance, do you know which Monday is going to be the meeting?
I actually have a flyer with me. I have a couple. I can just leave them to have the date.
Okay, that'd be great.
Because I don't
Does
have
it
it-
tell you on the flyer how to sign up for it?
I can actually send Alan the link. But yeah, if you've seen, do you guys get the pipeline from AWBD every now and then?
Yes.
You would have seen, they did it this last time with the red for north, but there's a link there too that you can click on and you can just go in and sign up like you do for the conference. But I'll make sure Alan has a direct link for it. But it's like in the middle of the month. I want to say, okay, it's the week before I go on my vacation, so that's why I'm trying to think about it. I'm drawing. I want to say 18, but it's not 18. So, but it's somewhere in that teen week, but that Monday.
Good.
Okay, anything else? You have anything? Alan?
No, no.
Doug? Ben?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Linda, for coming, taking
So
time.
thank you for inviting me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, Agenda 5, presentation and review of district's IT services. If you could just mention your names.
Good evening, directors. My name is Stephanie Moore. This is my husband, Michael Moore, and we are the owners of M3 Networks. We are the current IT providers for the MUD. Just a little background about us. We've lived in Trophy Club for 10 years. We have our son Henry graduated from Byron Nelson. We have a 7th grade girl that's currently at Liberty. We founded M3 Networks with the desire to provide superior IT support with a personal touch. Currently, Michael is serving as our founder and visionary. He's a former CIO for multiple companies and is a current cybersecurity expert. He consults with various companies around the country. He's also worked with the FBI and the Secret Service on various things, and I am serving as CEO. I have a background in public and private accounting, and am utilizing that to focus on the organization of our business. I am going to hand everything over to my more technical partner, and he will do
You're
the
just
rest
the boss.
of the presentation.
Just tells me what to do. So if any of them, I'm Michael Moore. This is my claim to fame right here, my beautiful wife, and glad to be here, directors. So we'll talk a little bit about cybersecurity, and then we'll get into the stuff that we do for the MUD. And if there's any questions you have, please stop me and ask anything at all. But we like to talk a little bit about cybersecurity first, because since 2020, that's been a constant 24/7, 365 kind of a thing that we all get to deal with. When I was just sitting back there, I got a notification from Capital One that Capital One's been hacked. So this is the kind of thing that happens every few seconds. It's not something you can take your eye off. The average customer that calls into M3 Network has had some kind of an event. I think it was almost 9 years ago now when we got called in to help the MUD. The MUD had a kind of cybersecurity event, so that's when we got called in. The average entity that calls into us has an event that's around $1 million in total loss. So that's how we always start everything. So what do we know about protecting our business? So we always talk about what's a breach, what's a compromise, these kinds of things. But the moral story here is the biggest threat to any entity is a cybersecurity event, because the most important thing is you can lose all of your money. It used to be like somebody wanted your data and things like that. They wanted to steal your identity. But the average event now is just all about money and stealing money. So before we started the meeting, we were talking a little bit about money and how we utilize money, things like that. The reality is the hackers are in the business of stealing money. So the really most interesting thing about the criminals is data centers have been deployed all over the world, specifically India, Pakistan, Iran, Russia. But the criminals that are attacking folks like us, they've been commoditized. And really, you can buy cyber criminals online like you can buy anything on Amazon. So in the olden days, you would actually have to have knowledge, go to school or develop some hacking skills. But the reality is you don't have to actually have any skills anymore. You can go buy talent online through these various call centers to do damage to somebody. So that's why it's very important. So just a basic little statistics, 94% of malware is still delivered through email. So that is a big thing. 1 in 323 emails is still malicious. And it's just a constant thing. We got a call from a company a couple weeks ago. They were like, hey, we had a call from QuickBooks, and we started downloading everything, and we clicked and we installed. What do we do? No, that wasn't QuickBooks. Right? It's just a constant thing. They sent a link. They trust the thing. People are very trusting, and so that's why we always start talking about cybersecurity. And like I said, we're going to leave all these things with you. But before we took over, kind of the reality here was just option 1, lose everything, go out of business. Option 2, be unverified. And option 3, be ready to have a recovery plan that's a controlled and a predictable manner within minutes. So one of the first things we did when we took over was we installed a backup system. And that backup system is from a company called Datto, which is a multi-billion-dollar backup company that the data goes off to 3 different data centers. And the data is encrypted, deduplicated, and ultimately what that means is it's secure and it's sent off-site. And the big thing about that is even if you put a bullet hole and poured water all over all the servers and all that kind of stuff, we can bring it back from online, and we can bring it back online quickly. Quickly meaning the average person that uses something like a Carbonite or Dropbox or whatever they do for their personal stuff, when they have it sent off-site and they got to re-download it, they got to depend on their internet speed to get everything back up and running. There's actually physical devices in there doing the backup, and a new physical device would be sent for free to restore everything if there was a catastrophe.
How often is it backed up?
It's backed up multiple times a day. Okay. Yeah. It's sent off-site to the data center twice a day.
Goes up to the cloud?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Kevin. So these are just, think attacks don't happen again, just some relevant things in the news. I mean, you probably all just saw that pagers are now being used in war. So things like that. These are just some relevant stories in the news. But what I want you to see is just kind of a list of the various ways that people get hacked these days, and businesses primarily.
I actually just sent you an email.
Yeah.
On Friday. You have a Rogers, last name Rogers, or who's the other person? I can't remember the person's name, but they opened a ticket. It was an email that came from a Ted Bauer, and it just had different topics. It's the one I called you on now. And I guess I haven't seen them, so I guess they fixed that problem.
Yeah, if you've got a specific ticket, I can talk to you.
Will Pruitt.
Yeah, Will's great. We love Will. So ultimately, criminal gangs, if you can see here, sell lists of companies. So you can buy folks' identity online for less than $1, and you can buy giant lists for very inexpensive. So ultimately, ransomware is not the only thing we're looking at these days. There's all kinds of stuff, and we talked to one of the cybersecurity experts back there, and we just kind of talked shop a little bit before we got started. And the reality is, the bad guys are everywhere. Like Stephanie said, I've done a lot of work with the FBI and CIA and Secret Service. And when we do work with the FBI in particular, just to be perfectly honest, there's levels that the FBI really cares about being helpful when these kinds of things happen. If you have a $100,000 breach, they've got them lined up out the door. They really don't have time. We've got $1 million breach, they're putting people on it immediately. And if you got your entire country hacked, they've got a whole different team for that. There was a guy that I went around doing speaking engagements with for a long, long time. His name was Brett Leatherman. Brett Leatherman is now in charge of cyber defense for the FBI for the country, in particular in defense of one country, and that's Iran. And there's an entire team that's defending against Iran. So these kinds of things, they happen with regular everyday criminals, but they also happen with entire countries. They're trying to do water departments, MUDs, electric grids, all kinds of damage. And this needs to be just present in our mind constantly. So ransomware is not the...
Excuse me, Michael, do you have an example of the kind of damage that's been done to a MUD or a utility?
Yeah, so just a couple of years ago, actually, in a coordinated attack, Russia took down 10 different water departments at once. Were you aware of that?
No.
Yeah, so that was a coordinated attack from Russia in particular. And they actually used vendor connections to make those connections directly to the water departments. They didn't actually use the water departments themselves. So it's not just protecting your own business, it's doing business with vendors who actually protect their own business and get things signed like business agreements that say, we're going to commit to these basic security principles as well. So yeah, Russia was a big one just a short time ago.
Yeah.
So ransomware isn't the only thing that happens. You know, sometimes people mistakenly wire funds. We worked one just last December. It was somebody who works directly with the electric grid. What they do is they actually do rollout of big poles and all kinds of stuff. I won't get in specifically because I don't want to give their name away, but they had $4 million stolen. And what they did is they actually pretended to be the admin at the company that they were doing business with and compromised emails and all that kind of crazy stuff. So this is the kind of thing that happens constantly. On average, it takes about 120 days to discover a breach. So that's why it's important to have systems working 24/7, 365. So the data center and the security operations center that we work with is an outsourced company. And that outsourced company is called Blackpoint Cyber. Blackpoint Cyber was founded by a guy named John Murchison, and he was the head command of Air Force cyber operations. So instead of just saying, okay, we're going to build our own cyber 24-hour security operations center, we partnered with John Murchison and his operation to do that, and they're out of Maryland. So the reality is, I mean, we can talk these little statistics and all that kind of stuff all day long. That's just the new reality that we all live in.
On our level, we each have laptops here. No one updates this, you know. I get a Microsoft update, but for security-wise, it seems like these would need to be updated with new security levels, or do you control that through the server and stuff?
So if you have laptops that are assigned to you from the MUD, then what we'll do is we'll put our security software and call you if you have any tickets or anything like that. We'll support them just like we would do any device here. Now, if it's your personal device, like your devices at home or your TV or anything like that, we don't support those devices.
I'm talking about this laptop, which you loaded. If I have a problem, I hit the phishing one, which that doesn't do anything but run a report. I called Alan, he gave me the email or number, and I did my ticket that way.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, if I use this at home to do MUD stuff, and I bring it in here and plug it in or connect up to the server, what prevents something I picked up, working at it at home through a server? Like when I use my personal one, it's the same server, Fiber First. So if they have something in their system, I carry it up here and infect this system.
Yeah, and I think a couple of things is y'all aren't technically connected to the server when you bring your laptops up here. And Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, but anytime we restart our computer and we have all those updates that happen, isn't that part of the behind the scenes?
Yeah, for sure.
It's the protection of our device through and through.
That's
100%.
if you are connected to your network.
That's no matter where you're at. If the device restarts, and it shows that there's a lot of reprocessing of data or doing updates, that's the updates that are being pushed into our device via.
Is that your data or Microsoft's data? Because mine just did Microsoft. I don't think it's your data.
There's a lot of layers to the question there. Any device that we support as the vendor for the MUD, such as a laptop provided by the MUD, is going to get layers and layers of security software, security awareness training set, protection at the email level, and lots of other things. And I remember, if I'm correct, one of the challenges, if anybody ever needs support and it's a MUD device, what we need to do a better job of getting you guys is education on what our help desk line is. Because our help desk line gets directly to our technicians. And there has been some times in the past where some folks have called our sales line, and our salespeople answer that line. So we get you the help desk line that gets directly to folks who can immediately assist you with any of these types of things. Does that answer your question, Kevin?
Somewhat. I still don't, I mean, obviously, nothing is 100% secured as in the email. If you have all that security you just mentioned, then why was I getting these bogus emails that I know from, being involved in IT, that I'm going, okay, if you get a USPS saying, hey, your package can't be delivered. Okay, let me open that. You don't do that. Or I get something from this Ted Bauer, and the topics are not even mud or water related. It throws up a flag, but it obviously things go through, and that's why you have those training classes that I never watch. But those are why you have those training classes, to give you ideas of how, hey, if someone calls you up or wants information, think before you do that.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. What I would tell you as it relates to spam emails or any malicious emails, the way the systems work is you can sort of turn up the volume to where you get less and less emails and less spam, or you can turn down the volume. So it can always be turned up, but the challenge, the higher you turn it up to where it doesn't permit any spam to get through, then ham doesn't get through too. And they call that ham. Your real emails at times don't get through. So it's a balancing act of constantly updating that system to be correct and letting the technology understand what's real and what's not. And then training the users as well to not click emails that say, I'm the QuickBooks guy, but I'm really the fake QuickBooks guy.
I was a little shocked on your previous slide that 26% of organizations that have a breach don't do anything to prevent another breach.
It's really a lot worse than that. I mean, so last December I got a call about a breach for a Fort Worth company. They had $4 million stolen. And I thought, they're hiring us immediately. They need help. They actually went on vacation. They said, this is stressful. And they literally went on vacation. And I thought, they're going to hire us. They're going to need the help, all this kind of stuff. So it's people put their head in the sand on cybersecurity and losing money because they just go, this is stressful. I don't want to deal with this crap. They don't say crap. They say lots of other things, but I don't want to put that on the record here.
Well, I do want to thank you personally for one thing. When I came back on the mud board, I've been trying to do my best to take each of those quizzes that you send out. And I'm amazed at how much, I come from an IT background, but I'm amazed at how much I learned at doing that, and how many attempts at hacks I've spotted coming at me personally, which before I would have not thought that much about. But having gone through that training, I'm very suspicious now.
I would tell you my suspicion started early. When I was 12 years old, my wife can close her ears now, I started sending malicious emails at 12, 13 years old just to understand how those kind of things worked. And I sent emails that said, hi, I'm Steve Case. I'm the founder of AOL. Please, reply to this email with your password. And I'd say about 10% of the people just replied with their password with a 13-year-old kid.
But on the Outlook that we use currently, what I'm familiar with, there's usually a fish in the top right corner or something under security. And yours has email analysis, which it did the analysis of my emails. It didn't find that one that was bad, but you couldn't open and breaking it down to see, okay, what emails are you talking about, other than it gave you a number. And then it has security training, which obviously that's the training. But it doesn't have, I was used to having a fish up there, you click it and it sends an email directly to you with the attachment.
Yeah, that's a plug-in into Outlook, and we can always add that plug-in.
That'd probably be a good thing, because it's easier to just look for the fish in the top. It's always in the top right-hand corner. Click it, and then you get the information that you're sending. So just a suggestion.
Absolutely. I think when Stephanie worked at the Federal Reserve, they actually sent you to dunce class if you didn't click the button.
Yes, you had one free pass, and then every time you got.
And then there's firms, the larger firms, always their IT sends you bogus emails just to see if someone, like State Farm, for example, does it. Once in a while, out of the blue, you'll get an email, and it's a test to see, testing the users if they click on it or not. If you click the fish, they go, oh, congratulations, So, great job.
How much at risk are you when you get repetitive emails from, let's just say a bank, and you choose to say, I want to unsubscribe? How risky are you at hitting that unsubscribe button?
Just the unsubscribe button itself, it can be a different button, but are you talking about the actual unsubscribe button in the email itself from somebody that you don't know if that's really the somebody?
Yes, and more times than not, to unsubscribe, they ask for your email address.
Right. So if you look down at the bottom, when you click unsubscribe and you highlight it, like highlight it, right click over it, it'll say who that is. So let's just say the email is, our lovely bank right over here, First Financial. And you see that it's ffin.com. That's cool. It's First Financial. Now, if you click it and go to First Financial's website and go to unsubscribe, we're on First Financial's website. We're telling them we don't want any of their emails. We're good. Now, if it's somebody you don't know who's sending you an email to try to get you to click a button that's going to their compromised website, that's a totally different thing.
So right-clicking on it will let you know who the sender was.
That's correct.
It'll tell you the address that you're going to go to.
Right.
And if it's an odd extension, then a flag should go up, if it's an org or something like that, or a com. But if you see something UK or something like that, not good.
Right. Yeah. So this is ransomware for those of us who may have never seen ransomware. Just ultimately what it does is it locks your computer down, says you've got a certain amount of time, you need to pay us and we'll unlock your computer or we'll encrypt all your files and you won't get them back. The trick of this is, the pop quiz is here, do we ever want to pay the bad guys? And the short answer is no. So this is one of the results of a cyber attack. But the bad guys don't ever mean to do a good thing in the future. So if you said, I got ransomware, and you pay them, it's just sort of inviting yourself to your future event. You've given your name, you've given your information, you've also told them, I'm willing to pay you in the future, right? I've got the money to pay you in the future. I've raised my hand for that. So that's why proactivity is really the only thing you can do. There's a lot of folks around here, including Keller ISD that got hacked. They paid the ransom, and then the bad guys came back in the future. You're sort of just telling a bad guy, I leave my door open, and here's a video of me on Facebook, and I'm going to be on vacation for the next 2 weeks. It's just no good things happen from that.
Yeah, you draw a map where all the valuable stuff is too, because
Dude, yeah, absolutely.
they don't trash your house then.
100%. So this is just a little presentation for you of how cyber liability insurance is involved. So in March of 2021, there was a 3-page application. By September 2021, the same application from the same carrier was 11 pages. The real approach here is insurance carrier said, we don't want to pay you guys anymore for all these ransomware events, so we're going to make this really complicated. Not only do they make it really complicated, they typically require you to have a high level of cybersecurity expertise to even fill out these forms. And if you get anything wrong, that means false or by accident, then you end up in a courtroom one day. And a courtroom many times is more expensive than the event itself. So we'll just kind of fly on through this and talk. This is how they sort of get around. We said we were going to be your friend and protect you with insurance. And right down there at the bottom, it says failure to continuously implement procedures and risk controls identified in the insured application. So if there's 100 questions and you said we're good on 92 of them, we got 8 to go, and then over time we kind of come down to 87, they're just sort of always kind of moving the ball and adding more questions and making sure that the responsibility is not on the insurance carrier, it's on us, right? It's on us as the policy holder, not on them. And there are entire law firms around the country that have sprouted up in defense of the insurance carrier and in defense of the customer. But ultimately, the key metric to take away here is that you have to be improving this area forever. And that's something that we take very seriously as a company. You can't just say, well, I took my blood pressure medication last month. I don't have to take it anymore. That's not how this game rolls. You got to take it every single day. And I use that analogy seriously. I used to get a call from my grandmother, and she'd say, I've been taking my blood pressure medication, and now I don't have to take it anymore. And we'd be back at the hospital. We'd be doing another stint. And she'd tell the doctor, I stopped taking it 60 days ago because it worked. And I was like, well, that's not how that works. We have to continue to take it. And she's like, well, the doctor's just, he's the idiot here, right? But the analogy is true. This is continuous improvement forever. And the bad guy is getting bigger and stronger and more enemies of the state. It's like, it's not fake news, it's real. There are people that mean to do us damage at all time, and we always have to be getting better, not getting worse.
Michael, how many total customers do you have? And of that base, how many are municipalities like ourselves?
So we have one municipal utility district as a client, and then we have about 60 clients nationwide.
And what prevents, you're dealing with the security system, but if a program is added into the server, and in a scenario like the airlines had, with their whole system and other, companies on the common system, it just got wiped out.
Yeah. So you're talking about the CrowdStrike outage that
Yeah,
CrowdStrike,
exactly.
as a security software, caused
Right.
to damage their customer, and the CEO had to personally apologize to all of his customers
Yeah.
and destroy their stock price by 60% in one day.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he learned his lesson. The biggest cyber attack that happened in the country, in my opinion, was really probably one of two things. I kind of think it was the SolarWinds attack. The SolarWinds attack wasn't even an attack. A junior engineer at SolarWinds, one of the biggest, network security and cybersecurity software companies in the country, literally gave junior engineer access to a major system, and he changed the password to that major system to SolarWinds 123, right? So the bad guy had a really easy access figuring out what the password was. So the moral of the story here is most of the problems in cybersecurity land still come from human error. And that's why you can put 27 layers of software in and every firewall on the planet. If somebody, like we had with somebody who called into our help desk and said, hey, I've got all these layers of security, but QuickBooks just called me, and I've downloaded everything, and he had an accent I didn't understand, and I've never talked to this QuickBooks. That guy was going around his own systems. And so you put things in place, and lots of things in place to prevent those kinds of things. But if somebody wants to do something epically dumb, you have to go back to backups and systems and two-factor authentication, stuff like that.
I think you're getting to probably the question I have is, as I said, we have multiple databases that we use.
Mm-hmm.
We have the billing one, right, Regina? We have a security one. We have SCADA, right? So if a MUD employee uses his laptop to access those things, how is IT M3 preventing from us getting infected by those other programs?
Yeah, so there's so many layers of protection. So let's just start with the basic layer. The basic layer is you guys don't have access to what you don't need access to. You are not global admins of the network, as an example. So you have access to specific things on the network, but you don't have global access. If somebody had global access to the network, that global administrator can delete things all over the network, whether they want permission or not. So that's permissions level. But there are lots of other layers, that prevent those kinds of things from happening. But we could probably get into lots and lots of conversation about that. How much would you like me to expand on that?
Well, I
besides-
just want to know, okay, if your system is checking these other databases when they get interfaced in our global, access, and then is there reports or something, or do you have flags that you notify a person, say, hey, someone, not that Regina would do this, but, you know, she's deleting records and it's kind of like excess there.
Yes.
No.
The short answer is yes. So we have a system. I'd like to not put the name of the system in the public record because it just makes it easier to thwart systems. The more people know what systems it are you use to protect yourself. It's like saying, this is where I live. I use ADT. This is their support line, you know, those kinds of things. But there are multiple layers of systems that protect those kind of actions from happening. And one of your vendors a few years ago was actually hacked. And we were alerted to that immediately, and we closed down their access before they even notified us that they were hacked. Then we got an email several hours later, M3 and the MUD board, or the MUD in general, hey, our system's been compromised. You guys may want to lock things down. So our team is constantly looking at those kinds of things and trying to be as proactive as possible.
Okay, do you want to continue on? Or?
Yeah, sure. I'll answer any questions you have. So cyber liability, you know, insurance companies, they're just not making the grade anymore because reality is premiums are rising. They don't want to pay ransomware fees, all that kind of stuff. So we talk about how do we want to manage risk in general. We talked a little bit about that. And we'll just get into the things that M3 does now, which is some of the questions that we had along the way. And I don't know how much we want to go into every one of these bullet points, but I'll just say, in general, we have end user management, which was some of the questions you were asking. How do we support the end users? So we've got role-based policies, high security password management, data management. You know, I think one of the most important thing is that end user security training that you brought up a couple times. And if you don't do it, ultimately what happens, if you ever end up in a courtroom, the competing attorney will say, how seriously do you take security? You'll say, very seriously. And the next thing they say, when's the last time you completed your security training? And you say, oh, well, I mean, and now we're sort of caught in a vice. So it's good to have all these systems, and the systems are good, but that security training is epically important because it's really important to show I care about this too, not just the IT people care about it too.
Okay, back to that security,
Yes,
which
sir.
I already told you, I don't watch the stuff. Our system right here, we have Outlook, obviously, that goes through the program. But my first question was, okay, if there's, you know, we all have laptops, we work, you know, at home, and the server at home infects it, we bring it in here and use it off the Wi-Fi or send an email. I was told, you just said that we don't connect up to the server, so there's no risk at it. Well, I disagree, because you could go through Outlook or something or send an email with a virus attached to it. So again, how are these getting updated to the latest and the greatest blockers that when we turn them on, either here or at home, and then bring them here? And right now, I'm connected up to the public Wi-Fi.
Right.
But still, if it has a virus, there's a chance that it could go through Outlook, and Alan opens my emails, or he doesn't read my emails, but anyway, say in a rare occasion he opens it, and it gets infected.
Right.
What preventive measures are you doing to make sure this laptop that has never been updated with a security measure like a Kaspersky
Yeah.
or something, or a Norton?
So specific to email, which was your question.
Well, any
there's
access.
Yeah, so I'll start with email and then I'll work backwards. So email, your connection to email is through Office 365. Office 365 has certain security controls through group policy and stuff like that that have been implemented globally. So if it sees somebody trying to log into your computer from China, as an example, and we have not authorized that, then it alerts and it doesn't allow them to log in. So we're talking about access control first. Now, as far as spam email, when an email gets sent to you, it actually goes through our totally different email security system before it arrives to you and gets scrubbed most of the time. Sometimes things get through. So if something now gets through both Microsoft's security features and the separate security feature of the entire spam system, and now has arrived to you and you click it, There are several pieces of software on any computer that we're responsible for. So one of those pieces of software is an MDR software. It's Managed Detection and Response. And so ultimately, what that software is doing is saying, there's something bad here, I need to quarantine it, and I need to alert the help desk system that we need to call this person because their computer is not going to work, it's not going to attach to a network anymore, those kinds of things. If it was a virus, there's virus software that is attached to it that says,
But it's not getting updated to the latest. I mean, obviously, you're what I deem experts, both of you two are, but to get the latest attacks, you have to be updating to identify those latest tricks they use to do that. I get emails here through my Outlook, and it's through other companies' Outlook, which it's common sense.
Right.
But if a person is naive and is not IT savvy, they could just click it and say, okay, and then it opens it up, and then they realize, oh, that's not supposed to be opened. And again, I guess the question is, how is this laptop that never comes in, gets updated, protected, and knows the latest tricks of the hackers and stuff?
so any device that we support, whether it be that device or any device that's physically here, it doesn't just connect to a local system that M3 provided, it connects to a cloud-based security system. So when it's on the internet, it gets those kinds of updates.
Any internet or just this internet?
Any internet.
Okay.
So it could be the internet of your house.
So
Again, like that security system I mentioned, Blackpoint Cyber with the MDR software, that's live and real and updating in real time 24/7. Right? The security software, the same kind of thing, the
What's the name of the
antivirus.
security software that's on these?
So it's called ESET.
What is it?
ESET.
Okay. Is it a program that you would, if you were able to go into Explorer or something, it would have a file for it? Or would you have to go into the operational system?
No, it definitely, you could see it as far as the files go, for sure.
Okay. Because I've never seen anything update the few times I've logged into.
And that would be the goal, for you to not be interrupted all the time. And with your specific computer or any specific computer, the goal of help desk and security team is to be constantly working to do updates all the time. Have updates been missed ever? Yes, for sure. Do those get addressed through a ticketing system? Yes. And there's people working on that kind of stuff 24/7. And if there's any specific issues or anything to address, we create, tickets, and those guys work 24/7 on those kinds of things. But yeah, we're happy to address any of those kind of things. Any more questions on that, Kevin or Ben?
Yes, next to the last bullet, suggested systems. Part of what I was curious about and asked for your attendance or presentation tonight was what role you play in helping us make decisions about hardware, software, and consulting services that we're going to be spending for. And we currently have in our budget $300,000 for hardware, software, and consulting services. What role is suggested systems part of your role?
Yes, sir. So ultimately, we work with the team here and talk through various things. Like one of the slides we'll get to a little later is one of the simple things is we suggest that you replace desktops, laptops, things like that at a rotation of 4 years, and there are 5 that need to be rotated out. So there's all kinds of rules that we follow with respect to that. And we make those suggestions, and then that filters through the budget for the year, because we certainly can't say, let's just do things that are outside of the budget, but we make those suggestions in accordance with.
I think I understand you to be a really significant part of our communications requirements and security in the area of communications. But for instance, we have a hardware item for $50,000 in the upcoming budget.
Right.
We don't know what it's for. We haven't had an explanation on that or a value add statement. And I'm just wondering if you are involved in that.
Yeah. So I'm happy to explain it now, or we have a slide that explains it too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's roll then.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we'll go to advanced security systems. We kind of talked about this as we were going back and forth. but we've got 24/7 security monitoring, both for events and for these active things that we talked about as far as viruses and the like. Dark web monitoring, I don't want to just bore you guys to death. We could go through all these bullet points, but this is in the record and you guys are going to have all these things. So what I try to do is just kind of hit some of the big bullet points. But dark web monitoring and scanning is very important to us as well. So if any of your email addresses show up on the dark web, like it's being sold to like, a ticket gets made, a call gets made, and we discuss what needs to be done in regards to that. So you can do that kind of thing on your own with like Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, but we have systems that monitor it for the domain that's related to TC-BUD and the other domains. And then we do a quarterly executive risk review. The way we do that is there are boxes that are green, there are boxes that are yellow, and there are boxes that are red. So we try to keep it pretty simple and high level. If it's green, it means we're doing good in this area. If it's yellow, we've got some caution. And if it's red, it's a high alert. We need to do something about this. So as an example, if you had a laptop that was 10 years old, that would be a red, right? We don't need to have a laptop that's 10 years old that can't be updated anymore, that is connected to the network. But if we had a laptop that's now 3.5 years old and we're going to replace it in a rotation of 4 years, that would be yellow. And we would talk about it and we would replace it in accordance with the budget. So business security policies, password policies, all that kind of stuff. I mean, when we started here, a lot of the passwords were not really complex and not really unique. And so that was one of the things that we implemented was complex and unique passwords that change in accordance with Microsoft's policies. We created a breach and incident response plan, and we're happy to show you that anytime you want to talk about that. And I'll keep trying to fire through these slides because there's just so many bullet points to the various things that we do. But cyber threat and focused security and network administration. So the biggest thing for you guys to understand, in my opinion, is it's not just like a guy sitting at a desk going, I wonder if something's happening. These systems have software that are attached to these computers, and if there is something that's happening, even so much as a hard drive spinning at a different rate than it's supposed to, a ticket is created, and a human is deployed to fix that or figure that out. So that's happening 24/7, 365. On our team, we've got level 1, level 2, and an escalation team. Our service leader is a guy named Bob Shaw that all these folks have met. He was a former division leader in the Marines. So even if it gets escalated all the way to him, he's the kind of guy who's like, let's take the hill. Let's make these things happen the right way. So data management. So we've got true business continuity. We got backup verification. There's an alert that goes from the Datto system that shows an image every morning of the full utility of the backups. It says, like, for an example, if you use books as an example and you say this was A book, B book, C book, and D book, and now the E book got backed up, so now 5, it shows an image of those are all the 5 things that got backed up, and then it verifies those things and sends an image of those things being verified. And then our team goes one step further. There's people on the staff who will then human verify that those things can actually be restored. Because the day to figure out if your restore process works is not when you have a major event. You actually want to test it before that. So like we talked about, automatic nightly offsite transfer and 24/7 backup and monitoring for failures. Additional security managers, we talked about that a little bit. Proactive IT coverage. We support the entire organization. We've got an advanced trouble ticketing system. You guys send an email in to our ticketing folks and somebody will respond within a short amount of time. Our average response time is 15 minutes or less. We don't charge any more for on-site or remote support. So if somebody says, I just need you to come on-site for this because I can't get it powered up, so I can't show you my screen through a remote system, our team gets deployed and we don't charge an hourly fee for additional things like that. And then we've got security administration and support for the mobile devices and complete network administration. And then key vendor management, the way we look at ourselves is we sit on the same side of the table as you guys. So We've charged what we've charged for the year. We're now done. We're on the same side of the table. We're the IT department. So if you're on the line with a website vendor, phone vendor, business application provider, we're sort of your geek on call to be your representative when they go, oh, you probably wouldn't understand this kind of thing. It has to do with the bits and the bytes. We sit as your IT department to support you through all those conversations and any questions and answers that anybody has. So inventory management of all the devices. So if anybody anytime says, I need to know what all the assets are, we can pull that up at any time. We provide C-level consultation for anything such as we need to move to a different software. We like to test that before we move and have those conversations in a proof of concept lab environment. And then we provide detailed network documentation. Documentation is so important. We do that constantly. So kind of big picture, as your IT department, we serve 3 core functions: 24/7 cybersecurity team, IT help desk, and the CIO and project deployment team. This is kind of a nice little graph that sums up all those many slides that we just went over: backup, cybersecurity, staff education, C-level consulting, help desk monitoring, vendor management, and business reviews, and all that entails. Okay, so there's some local other brands that trust us here locally and around the country. So as far as the budget goes for 24-25, we've got hardware first. Hardware is a replacement of 5 workstations. The base cost was $1,700 each, so it's $8,500. The question that you asked Mr. Brewster was, what is this thing that's budgeted in here? And it's replace a 10-year-old storage area network and the switches. So that's $42,050, and the total cost is $50,000 for ultimately that hardware. And that's the itemized list. So 5 workstations and this 10-year-old SAN. Ultimately, the simple picture of what the storage area network is you've got multiple servers, and it can be very expensive and slow if they've got all their own hard drive that's not connected, right? So you have a storage area network that is essentially, in simple terms, the hard drive for all those servers. And that device is key to the organization, and that device is now 10 plus years old. So that device needs to be replaced. It's out of warranty by Dell. We've bought the warranty a few times, and ultimately you got to replace that device or it's going to die one day, and if it dies, it kind of takes everything else with it.
Do you have a complete list of all our hardware, software,
Yes, sir.
and consulting service relationships?
Not with me right now, but yes.
No,
we certainly have
I'm
it.
just,
SCADA and
big
stuff?
question to me.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
SCADA or accounting?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and when they come on board, if Alan or the board, agrees to upgrade a system or upgrade finance, or security, do you work with that company and make sure everything is interfaced with our equipment?
Yes, sir. Our team does.
Well, can you back up one slide? I think maybe one more. You had CIO. You had CIO relationship.
Mm-hmm. So here it is down at the bottom, and then here it is down at the bottom, C-level consulting. Again, virtual CIO, CTO, and CISO services.
Okay. So you really are the IT manager
Yeah, the IT department, the IT manager.
for the district.
That's correct.
I've had 2 positive experiences with your company. I'll pass along. About a year ago, I was using Microsoft News, and I decided one of the stories was interesting. I dropped down a level or 2, and I got a red screen or a lockup or some really bad thing happened. I called Alan. 1 minute later, I was talking to your help desk, and about 15 minutes later, it was all resolved. I had to relinquish control of the computer and turn the administrative function over to your guys, but they did a great job. I don't drop down anymore out of the Microsoft News. The other thing is, I'm a newbie. Doug and I have only been on the board for 2.5 years or so I like your micro training every week. keeps me kind of in the spirit of watching for downsides. But I didn't know you had the level of responsibility that you do with the district until the casual conversation a couple weeks ago with Alan.
Yes, sir. And that's why I thought it was appropriate to just kind of go over all the things instead of just go over, like, here's the budget number for next year. I thought it would be a little more comprehensive if we kind of go over all the things that we're doing.
Have we had this presentation and I was asleep or something, or what?
Not
He's been here
recently.
4 times before, man.
Yeah, not recently, no. Not recently. I mean,
Okay.
most people say, this puts me to sleep. Could you please not present this anymore? So we're happy to do it anytime, though.
All
The
right.
videos are very helpful.
Thank you, thank you. So I will say this client down here at the bottom, CEO Coaching International, is run by a billionaire founder named Mark Moses. And one of the impressive things that I've liked about Mark Moses in his organization, that he's grown from 1 person to 600 clients in just a few short years, and has people on his coaching roster that are just some of the most exceptional people all around the world, have grown some of the biggest businesses around the world. Is he was on a boat in the middle of the sea last summer, and when the security training came out, he said, I got mine done first. Who's going to be second? And he sent an email to every single employee, sort of challenging them. And that's ultimately, the IT company can say, please do this, please do this, please do this. Leadership has to say, you guys actually have to do this because it could financially damage us if we don't do it. I mean, ultimately, that's where it lives, is in the responsibility of the leadership of any entity to say, the reason this is important is if we don't do it, it can financially harm us. You know, we're an IT company, you're a client, we aim to serve you, but at the end of the day, it's your money, and you don't want to have any of these nasty cyber attacks happen. So,
Michael, you have a major problem with your chart.
what's that?
When you're presenting to us, you should have Trophy Club Mode 1 on there.
Okay?
We had it on there, and then the feedback was to not put it on there, so that you don't worry that we were reusing a slide deck from before. So actually, that was internal feedback, and we removed it. So I'm going to pass that back to our.
Your feedback was poor.
So,
I do have a request.
yeah, for sure.
Discovered the training, took me several weeks to get caught up in training. Got my 800 score maxed out, sitting at the top of the stack. Used to get the emails like on a weekly basis that training was available. I got the 800 training, the emails went away.
Right.
So if you can redo my emails, I'd appreciate it.
The better you get it, the more A student you are, the less training you get, because it assumes you're assimilating the knowledge. Whereas the F students, they'll start getting 8, 10 emails saying,
That was what was going on. I was getting,
You can go to the top and sort by the training and delete them all like that. It's real fast.
right.
so anyway, thanks.
Hopefully you got some extra for me too.
Sounds like we
I
need to
could-
do a scrub of that machine and see what training is happening and what's not happening. What do you think?
Right. All we can do is the humble provider is point it out and suggest. I mean,
But I'm the one that sent you the email.
Yeah.
So apparently I know something about, spam emails
yeah,
or phishing ones.
we'll continue to suggest.
Yeah. Hey,
It's a humble
they're
servant.
not bad, and you can tell it's not some small company because some of the actors on there are high class actors. I mean, you're not going to have them do something for nothing, so it's put together. Some of them are pretty corny, but, it's in good just to make sure you're not sitting there just getting garbage thrown down. It's entertaining, and it's going through the entertainment process. So I have watched some, but I don't keep up with them that much.
All right.
I think the most recent are very professionally scripted and acted out.
Awesome. Thank you.
I have a big question for you. Are you aware of IT in our town? The systems they use, the platforms that are being used, the applications?
So we're aware that they have applications and that they have a different company that they work with, but we don't currently support them, so we don't know the inner workings of their systems and how they're supported and things like that.
Where I'm going is, I'm wondering, since each of the 5 board members here are taxpayers in our town, we help fund what's going on in the town as well as
do we.
in the mud. Yeah.
So do we.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. But I'm wondering if there are opportunities for license hitchhiking on the town's licenses, and having some kind of a review like that with the town to see if there's an opportunity for sharing.
There's always opportunities for discussion, but I would tell you that how we originally got brought in was town was managing the MUD's IT, and I can't remember exactly, but years of emails were deleted by town IT. One accident.
Well,
I mean,
it wasn't a good deal. That's why we brought you in.
It wasn't a good deal. There was a lack of responsibility in some of the core areas, and then that's why we got brought in. So there's certainly some things to uncover, but that would be a much bigger conversation.
Michael, you might want to know the town manager sitting in the back of the room.
Yeah, we're town people. We live right down the road. The reality is we're humble people who are happy to help in any way possible.
And how many companies did you say? You had one MUD, and then how many other companies?
60, yeah.
Yeah, so when you buy programs like a Microsoft or license and stuff, you have the ability to, bring everybody in to get a lower discount. Is that right?
Yeah, Microsoft.
Volume
for sure,
discount.
yeah. Volume discount really on anything, hardware, software, et cetera.
I think that's what Ben was asking, like, okay, if you work with the town, they have, 80-something people, Brandon, somewhere around there? And, but if you have 60 other companies, obviously, you're already at the volume discount on things.
I think that is above my pay grade. I would defer to you guys and how you want to develop a relationship on, buying power and those kinds of things.
Again, and I agree with the question he asked is, you're a resident, I'm a resident, if we can, the MUD in the town are starting to open the door as far as working with more projects, common projects. So if there's any way that there's savings in any way, that we'd like to, someone to look into that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're your client and stuff, you work for us. There's security measures that you aren't gonna be told, and just like I don't expect you to tell them some of ours. Little tricks and stuff. But anyway, if there's an opportunity to have a savings for all the residents, we wanna, support that.
When we originally started this relationship, we had very, very much complex and lovely conversations with Mayor Nick Sanders and Councilman Ryland Rowe at that time, and we can fire up any conversations with anybody you would like us to discuss with.
Yeah, Ryland's a sharp person.
Yeah.
So.
Ryland and I've been
Council too.
good friends for about a decade or so.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so hardware, and now we got software and subscriptions. I think we just talked about subscriptions a little bit. So we've got the 24/7 security software that's all included as part of our offering that we'll show you in just a second. The Windows Server licensing upgrades across all servers is $7K. We've got the security awareness training that's included. We've talked about security awareness training a bit here. 4 domains that get renewed on a credit card, $120. Microsoft Office subscriptions, about $7,500. And total software and subscriptions for the year is $14,680. Any questions about any of that?
Anything?
Are we going to get a copy of this? I
We
assume
can, we can send one out.
It's top secret. You can only read
So,
it.
I think,
Who got it?
there you go. All right, so IT services agreement, that's your support agreement with M3 Networks. It's $71,379. It was a 3% increase from last year. And then we always suggest do a third-party cybersecurity assessment. We use a company called Galactic Advisors for that, so that's included if we want to do that. And then monthly meeting support, you may see these guys back here running the AV. That's $5,400 for the year. Our team comes and supports these meetings with AV support, which is, it's not something we typically do as a company, but there was a request made and we're happy to do it. So these guys are at every single meeting doing that. So total budget, so we've got hardware right at the top, software and subscriptions, our IT service agreement that we just discussed, the monthly meeting support, and a total budget of $142,009 down at the bottom, if our math is correct. And that's the end and our last slide.
So on the IT recording portion of it, Laura, you'd be more familiar than me, but how complicated it is when we have a meeting? I know the town does their live on, I believe, FaceTime or something like that. Or no, you went to another YouTube, right, Brandon? Yeah, when Philip was on there and Ryland, they went to that. But anyway, how difficult is that versus what you have to do now? You have to download it and then post it on the web or something.
When we updated our equipment, we did not, the cost of buying the equipment to do live, we did not buy that system.
Yeah.
That we could do that.
I don't know if it's something we need to look into, but you have that capability, correct?
Yeah, you can ultimately, you know, like we've done in the past, you know, basically host a Zoom meeting and then stream that Zoom meeting across Facebook. If you,
So it's live for someone to dial in on,
Right.
on a link on the Facebook.
right. So it's
Might not be
ultimately,
bad.
you know, more or less just like doing any regular team or Zoom meeting. Just somebody would have to be responsible for doing that portion of it.
Yeah, looking at the hits we get on our website, I don't really think it's going to be much, where the town gets a lot more people looking in.
Sure.
And stuff, so, I mean, you can see the attendance we get here. I mean, it's standing room only.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, so,
Well, this is for Alan. When we spoke in your office a couple weeks ago or last week, you pulled down a list of all the items that were targeted for hardware, software, consulting. I thought we came up with a $300,000 number. And is that, what kind of things are outside this 142 number?
Correct. So as part of the budget itself, what you're referring to, we sent to the board. I think I sent it on August 14th. It was one of the budget requests. This includes professional outside services, which includes more vendors than just M3. And our software support also includes a lot of internet costs in here and other softwares that are utilized for other functions of our government. So what he's talking about is ones that he specifically, or M3 specifically provides, but they help us oversee multiple different softwares. And then also the hardware costs are wrapped into that. So the hardware is $50,000 budgeted. Software and support, which includes the internet, is $153,000 roughly, and then we have another $100,000 in professional outside services.
and software is an example where we have 13 people, and then you have the directors' screens too. Town has a lot more people, so if they're buying X amount of units a year, maybe we combine, you know, vendors or something and try and get a bigger volume price. I mean, that's just one example.
Yeah, happy to have that conversation for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if Brandon has your business card, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to give him a business card.
Okay, for sure.
Any other questions? Doug?
Well, just the other day, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, my laptop decided to update itself. I don't exactly understand why it did that. But everything came out okay, but when it updated, it lost my password. So I had to get with M3 to reset my password. They were very prompt and worked great. And so I do appreciate that. And I love the training programs that are video. I'm at 802. And,
We got the A students around.
there's a couple of classes I'd like to go back and that I scored 75 on that I'd like to redo. But anyway, if you're at 800, you can't get any more.
She was our family magna cum laude and accounting and Big Four and all that kind of stuff. I was our resident, let's see if I can hack the grading system with a C, that kind of
Fly
thing.
under the radar, you're not noticed.
So I
It's like
totally,
those videos and stuff, it's the guy dark in black suit and stuff.
yeah, I relate to what Kevin's talking about more than being the consistent 800 person in that regard.
But the training's really helped me be aware of all the different cyber issues that can happen. But just to roll over the link to a place can tell you a lot about it. And I didn't know that before.
Well, if you want to know more, we're actually doing a sort of a presentation and training to the Trophy Club Rotary on Friday at their regular meeting. And then we're doing a community-wide, essentially AI training that's going to be hosted at Trophy
Where's
Club
this
Country
at?
Club. The Trophy Club Country Club
Okay.
on the 25th.
Friday?
On the 25th.
The
So,
Rotary meeting's Friday at the country club.
right.
So can I get get up to 800 if I go to it?
More than welcome.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, anybody have anything else? Staff have any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Very enlightening presentation.
Having us.
Thank you.
You get some information out of that, Linda?
Oh, it was my prior life. I love the numbers. I used to do the data center for the Federal Reserve.
Okay, we're moving on to item 6, correct? It's a presentation and review of proposed security audit services.
Directors, if I may, there was a request by a director to look at proposed security audit services for the district, both physical and non-physical. There were some recommendations, or there's some programs that were viewed, and some services providers was part of that group that provided that presentation. But that individual and I have made contact, but they have not responded with the ability to come down here today. So I went ahead and did some more checking and looking around to try to find other vendors to come in and satisfy the request, and made contact with a few others. And doing some searching, I was pleasantly surprised to find someone here local that does this type of thing for a living. So pleased to have Jim McConnell here tonight, and he's going to talk about his business, what he does. And then also, as he's discussing this, I've provided a draft of some of the service costs based off of the recommendations or requests from the board member as well. So
Thanks for attending, Jim.
Thank you, folks. First time, watched a few videos to make sure I understand Robert's Rules of Order real quick. So back to the, I'm going to step off my presentation for just a second.
You're out of line already. You're out of line already. No.
Yes, sir.
just kidding.
Mr. Brewster, if you look up Muleshoe, Texas, it was a water department that was breached. And I believe it was earlier this year. There are a number of other ones, but I figured that was close to home for you.
Thank you.
And I don't know their recovery costs, but I believe it was in the millions. And I'm not a headline guy, so, but you asked that, and I thought I'd follow up on that.
Thank you.
So my name is Jim McConnell. I am a Trophy Club resident for the last 10 years. I was brought in, again, from a perspective of independence. I don't sell hardware. I don't sell software. No reason to duplicate efforts. I tend to be around either building security departments or assessing them for what their maturity is today. I don't like to use the word audit just because I come from a corporate background. Audits tend to go through a much higher conversation than assessments. Call it what you want, but I tend to want to have a conversation and relationship. So I'm just going to talk about that I'm a resource for you folks. If that moves into other activities that I can help with, let me know. So from my company standpoint, just to get that out of the way, so from a due diligence standpoint, I am a State of Texas LLC, headquartered in Trophy Club. Started the business on 7/1 of last year. That's relevant because of my last employer. I left that under great terms on 6/30, so the lawyer set me you will not do anything till 7/1. General liability insurance, but I specifically have liability insurance around security companies. There's only a few companies in the country that provide that type of insurance, and that insurance is approved by the state of Texas Department of Public Safety for their licensing. Again, I'm an independent prospector. I can recommend products, but because of my independence, I'm not a big fan of selling them. I like to pass it off to partners that you already have, or others that there might be a gap in some of their area. I know that last month you got an overview from Mr. Shopner around a company called Ubiquity. I have personally been involved in 4 or 5 installations of that technology, and so it is an option. I can tell you some pros and cons of all the different ones that are out there. Just helped a client design and install that the last couple of weeks. Some people will ask around licensing in the state of Texas. If you're not familiar with it, a security company needs to be licensed by the Department of Public Safety, something called the Private Security Bureau. There are specific requirements in there. This particular engagement that I've been asked to talk to you folks about does not require a company license, but if you do ask that question and you have other organizations that provide you certain types of security services that are under that regulatory covering, I'd encourage you to look into make sure that they are licensed. It costs a lot of money and a lot of requirements, but again, for this work. My current clients, I have clients in the security industry, the construction industry, and the human resource industry. I'm a small company. I'm not going to deny it. Registered in SAM.gov, the multiple ISDs, and the Texas School Safety Center. And so I work both in the physical side and the cyber side, fraud, investigations across the gamut of different areas. But I am able to service all the way up to the federal government and done a lot of work in that area. I won't read this in small print, but I'm honored to have been blessed to have the opportunity to build a set of credentials up. Again, these are set there for you to make sure that you have a right due diligence on me as an individual, and then if I need to bring in other folks, then I do that obviously within any relationship that we have. Certified, licensed, both at the state level and at the industry level. For my firefighters in the back, went through my wildland fire training down south, so I am a volunteer first responder in the state of Texas for the last 5 years. Have done training at Trophy Club Park, so support there has been awesome in that relationship. Most recently, it was with a Fortune 30 company that I can't mention in public. It's a critical infrastructure company. Was a fellow there, so if you're on the technical side, the fellow side, but would be considered a director level. So I covered a variety of things over those 30 years. Physical security, cybersecurity, information security, supply chain, investigations, fraud, personnel security, around executives and events, and a trainer. I've operated in about 16 countries, so love culture and understanding culture and the differences. Culture, not only just heritage culture, but culture of different organizations out there. If anybody is an Aggie fan or not an Aggie fan, howdy. But I am an adjunct instructor at Texas A&M. Probably 95% of my students are municipalities. So I've been with them for a while. In fact, I'll be in Aurora, Illinois in a couple of weeks to teach with them. You'll look down the lower left-hand corner of that picture, you'll see the word works on the side. That was an entire water department of a town in East Texas, that I did 2 classes for their entire water department. The second picture there is me doing a Go Bag class for the TCEVA. So I do a family emergency Go Bag class to give back into the community. And again, a first responder, and that's a touch truck, the Trophy Club touch truck over there. So pictures show my involvement. Military and law enforcement transitioning mentor, love doing that for our military heroes and our law enforcement heroes. My wife is former law enforcement, so I get to do that mentoring very regularly, and then do some pro bono work in the faith-based community. Again, local resident, and just finished my second book, published my second book, so fun there. So from a company standpoint, some of my pain points, what you won't see on here is specific kind of what we would see in the industry or marketing around, is it a cybersecurity issue? Is it an information security issue? Is it a fraud issue? Because these tend to be the pain points that my clients ask me about, whether they are, no matter what type of organization they are, or a lead will call me up, and it's in these areas. Doesn't mean it's the only thing I do, but it is the pain points that I get called about on a regular basis. At the local small, medium business, my son, who just moved out of our house, so empty nesting, but he owns a small business in Fort Worth servicing Amazon sellers. He has many of the things that you see on the screen. He has those challenges, even as a small business. So here to help both as an advisory, if you have questions around any of areas of security, and as an advisory to you to come back at any time. Give me a call, give me an email, et cetera. Or as Alan has asked me to do, to provide some specific services around assessment of your physical and cybersecurity maturity, both at a governance level, which is where I tend to start, down to a light technical level to start out. Let's just make sure, let's reset where we are across your entire infrastructure and systems and supply chain. And then obviously look at what mitigations might take place there if we want to move forward. So that's really simple there. I want to be short and sweet, standing by, ready to partner. I do have some other slides on there that might get into other sensitive more things of how we would do these things. But I'm glad to answer questions, but go to legal counsel to make sure that there's some things within open records, and I know in FOIA that would probably need to stay away from the public record.
Anybody have any questions?
Yes. You're here because we don't have a formal security plan. I think we've got bits and pieces, and you heard M3 talk about IT communications is how I'd place them. What are the big, if security is a big umbrella, what are the main elements that you would plug in under that plan?
Sure. So what we're going to look at is, I tend to look at it in three different areas. I'll broadly call it information cybersecurity as a slice of that pie chart that people need to think about. Some of that area you may be more mature in because you have somebody like M3. But in that slice, then you say, what does M3 cover and what do they not? That's part of the conversation that could happen. For example, in this room, while I was sitting here, I counted about 20 to 25 devices on some network in this room.
Easily.
Okay. Interesting. And so, I'm looking at the back of the TV, and there's two network connections going into the back of this TV here. So cyber and information security, those are two different things. I can do training on what the differences there are. Then I get into physical security. So classic, can I get into this? Can I get into the building? Can I get into a piece of the infrastructure? What could I do there? All of the physical security things that are there. What is it vulnerable to? Are there threats that have happened in the past? But obviously, let's look at what are we vulnerable to. And then if there are specific threats that I'm made aware of, then we can focus on, are we vulnerable to that threat? But otherwise, let's look at the vulnerabilities that are out there. Some we're going to fix, some we're just going to be aware of, some we're not. And then the third area is personnel. That's not, say the best for last, that's most important. You have 13 individuals that are on staff. You have people here. You have people that are in part of your supply chain that go onto your premises you have some responsibility for their safety and security, in my opinion. And so personnel is the third area. And so within those three areas, we're going to look at those probably first, because they're big parts of the pie. Then you can get into other areas like probably the fourth area would be fraud controls. I'm not a CPA, but I'm a certified fraud examiner. And so what are those controls there? Whether you, on any of those areas, what part do you outsource and what part are you doing today? And what part is, we're not doing any of that. And those are all okay answers because you have to set a new baseline. Doesn't mean you haven't done these things in the past from an assessment standpoint, but we'd like to reset that baseline for 2024, going into, say, a 2025, saying, with those budget things, how do we adjust if we find some vulnerabilities? And we're going to start with those three areas. Fraud's a little bit different type of assessment, but Alan's asked me to kind of look at those first three areas as a thought. Does that make sense, sir?
We have $64 million worth of depreciated assets on the ground, in the ground. Can I live with that number, Alan? Well, we'll use it as we've got a big number of depreciated assets. We have the town, and it provides some security for us, and I would see them fitting under that big umbrella called security plan.
Absolutely, sir.
We've got flock camera system at all the entrances, and that's helped us. The town was hit, catalytic converter network got in and hit the school parking lot. But things have happened already, and we have citizens on patrol. The average car, according to their feedback, is 55 miles a night, and they don't drive by any of our assets right now, but that could be in their future plans. So part of the security plan and asset is what the town is already providing us with police, citizens on patrol, flock camera, and other things they do.
And I think part of that is it documented what that relationship is?
Exactly.
If it's not documented with the proverbial person handshake, should it be documented from an insurance standpoint, liability, et cetera? And so there's a lot of controls, just human nature. I mean, let's face it, if something goes on Facebook, is Facebook, talking about some problem, is that a security control? Conceptually, yes. Now, if nobody's looking for it from that context, it's a useless post.
Yeah, you're headed right where I wanted to go, and that is what the work product would look like.
Sure. And so for me, I'm going to separate information cybersecurity report from the physical and personnel side. And so I'm pretty simple. I'm kind of, you can take my report. I'm going to give I call it an executive summary for my corporate days. And then it's high, medium, low, nothing fancy. Here's what we found. Here's what I suggest. Some of that's going to be people, some of that's going to be process, some of that's going to be investment. And then that I make it in such a way you can copy that, paste into a project plan. And somebody can then set to prioritize in that. And I don't go away from the standpoint of, hey, can we, now that we put that in, we had a change here. Jim, can you go back in 6 months and revalidate if we get it right? And again, I'm not a headline person. I got 30 years of incidents on both cyber and physical and personnel threats from my previous employer. So don't need a lot of headlines to tell you that there's a lot of things we can do. Part of that is going to be getting with council on how we make sure that we have those conversations in the right way. We all know the old phrase, some of it could be dirty laundry. And we've got to protect that properly until it's resolved. But there may be things, for example, that you have some detection capability, broadly speaking, that you're not utilizing that is free. Let's take advantage of it. Why don't we get some eyeballs on it? If we don't have the resources on staff, can we have a third party having eyeballs on those things? So there's, not that I'm saying that there's a lot of data flowing in through those mechanisms, but do we know?
Very good.
Okay, you mentioned that city mule shot, I believe.
Yes, sir.
I mean, Pam, you should be familiar with that city.
I
being
am.
out there. There's actually two other cities, Lockney and Hale Center, I believe it was.
Unfortunately, we use them in our TEACS classes all the time, so I knew that one.
And with mule shot, what they did was get into the computer system and overflowed the tanks. Hale Center, I believe, or Lockney, I can't remember which one, they had over like 37,000 attempts to log into their system. What the U.S. government took the approach, and they take it very seriously. They sent out a letter to the governors of all the states warning them of possible attacks from this, they call them Russian Cyber Army, I think is the name of it. And they were actually involved in Ukraine issues too, as far as contaminating and shutting down their plants. But the bottom line is the EPA, I think his name's Michael Regan, who's oversees that, and then his assistant of the National Security Advisor, they sent letters out to the government informing them of possible attacks to the water and wastewater plants. And that's what brought it up in my eyes, is like, okay, we need to review our security system and see where the cameras are, protect our assets. And as M3, gave a good presentation of how you prevent any cyber attacks or spam or phishing that people can get in and shut your system down or do a lot of harm and cost a lot of money. But I'm wondering, are you aware of any grants or help, since obviously the government advised the governors that this is something to open your eyes to and take a serious approach on protecting your assets?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. One is I've heard some things around FEMA and DHS CISA that has some grant activities going on there. I don't know that it's probably a legal entity difference here that I'm thinking, but I know there's some federal grants for in the faith-based community, and I don't know that it's tied specifically to the faith-based community. It could be to nonprofits, and so I know that grant is, I think, $150,000 per year per entity. So I can't imagine that there's not.
Yeah, it's just something our staff should look into.
Absolutely.
As possible, any grants. I mean, I can't imagine Lockney, Hale Center, and Muleshoe are big, metropolises and stuff.
Sure.
And if the Russians go after small change like that, what would a DFW area or Fort Worth?
Yeah, I mean, there's a, DHS CISA has a local representative that can be a conduit. I have that contact information for DHS. So we can find out who that person is and say, hey, listen, find your grant person in DHS. I've got easy access to those folks in Washington also. The other thing I think is around, how do you respond? So we talked about people, process, technology. We talked about physical, but also, some of the consideration is how do we take the people in this room and do you take them through a tabletop exercise, as they would say, of a simulated attack? And we can design that without you, design that with you. There's some interesting things around, okay, it's 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, XYZ, we just got the call. How would we as the district, sorry for the we, but how we as the district would respond for our citizens, both at the operational level with Allen's area and then you as that area. And so those are things that, let's make sure we're mature enough to be able to handle that. We're going to do that at the beginning because you'll be like, too many surprises. But those are things that you can think about as you get to the point saying, you know what, I think we're right, but you know what? What happens at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday?
And I 100% agree with you, Dad. I mean, Bill was in the military, Jim, where they do reenactments. I mean, firefighters do it all the time. They do reenactments like, okay, you have a broken arm, you're bloody, they do it at the parking lots and stuff and set you up. And then it becomes second nature for the person to know. And if you take a step further, you document it using ISO processes that, if someone isn't familiar with it, guess what? Okay, we had, water contamination, pull the binder, step by step by step. A second grader can follow it. But that's what it's coming to, unfortunately, in this world, is nothing is protected 100%.
Yeah, and I always like to pick on at least one person in the room, but yeah, we send Mike on vacation. How does that change your incident response plan?
He has so many years here, it's send Mike to work.
For vacation.
Has this been helpful, folks?
Yeah, very.
Very.
Alan, back to you, sir.
Absolutely. So from my perspective, as we're looking at upgrading our security system this year, bringing this to the forefront, I think that we're looking at things differently than just updating camera systems and building access now. So we do have some draft budgetary numbers here. So if this is something that you want, I'm seeking your direction on whether or not you want me to proceed with this, because in my opinion, I think this would be step one. Now, already had a conversation with him and IT, and then I also have another vendor that would help us with the implementation of things. But I also told him our ERP plan is already out of date just because of changing of staff in town and having conversations with a new town manager. It's just something that we need to look at updating. So I'm seeking direction on whether or not you all are comfortable with me proceeding with this. If so, then we'll start a project going into this next fiscal year as part of our overall security updates.
Well, I think we have to put a number in there. I think it's beneficial to come up with procedures and, as he just mentioned, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. What do you do in this case? And I have every confidence in the staff that we have and the quick response of them, but everybody has to be on the same page and make sure that we're following the guidelines, who needs to be called, where things need to be blocked off at, and that situation. So I think what the number is, I'll leave it to the board to discuss, but we need to put a number in there. And I think this is just the beginning of it, so it shouldn't be some astronomical number. The equipment, I think we got quotes from, or a number, not a quote for the equipment of, maybe less than 20,000 or something.
Well, and we haven't
That's
even
just
gotten
cameras.
it. Correct. We kind of backed up and stopped, and part of this process is utilizing and looking at those different systems, and I've had a conversation with him. IT is also aware of what our expectation are moving forward. They'll help us implement that new technology. I've reached out to our other vendor that we utilize for security support as far as the physical assets, implementation. They are familiar with this. They have another one that they also recommend looking at. Part of this, and what my request is his sit side by side and work with all of us together to determine what the best product is for the district, help us implement that project, come back in and make sure it's working properly and set up the way that we expect it, providing the written document from inception to completion. That was kind of the thought if we're going to go down this path.
Yeah, I think we have to go out for bid on, to get an assessment of, what are good things to add. What's a big, I'm pretty good with
Equity.
Yeah, with a U, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I read the other day on some site, they actually upgraded their system where they can use other people's cameras now.
Yep, that's about a week away.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
And this is part of what I need the other individuals involved with this process, because we're going to start with this first, and then we're going to evaluate what the systems are before we bring it in and recommend.
Yeah, I just brought that up because as far as hardware, cameras and stuff, we could utilize possibly some of the cameras we have now, but go to 360 in cases and then put the other camera somewhere else.
And what we're trying to do too this year, there are some spots where we're probably going to need to add cameras, but we're trying to use our existing locations because we already have the
Yeah, the
POE set up.
locations, but the hardware might change, the type of camera.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. But I'll open, we can, thank you very much for your presentation, by the way, Jim. Would we be out of line to give Alan direction on putting a number in there, or?
Do you think you have the direction you need?
I think so. We've got the money is going to be budgeted as part of the fiscal year capital improvements. That's where I would start the project from. You've got the initial concept. We've already reviewed a high-level draft of an agreement with Mr. McConnell. Now it's just determining if you all are okay with starting this process, and either I can keep it under my purchasing threshold of $25,000 as a not to exceed, or we can just step by step and do an initial assessment, start with that, bring it back to the board, and then go from there.
Doug, what's your thought?
Well, the more I think about security, the more worried I get. But
I don't even want to drive home tonight.
We're not an unsecure mud.
Yeah.
We've got cameras everywhere, and there's people watching, and gates are
Yeah,
locked. And
I just want to caution you, and I don't know if Pam's going to jump in, but it's a security risk, and you need to, we don't have anything here, or something like that,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
just,
Absolutely.
take choice of your words.
Absolutely. A lot of this needs to be executive session talk.
Yeah, that's why I said, just if you want to, he has 25,000 already for expenditures, and Alan just mentioned that, okay, you can do initial cut and then amend the budget for those items if we don't see we're going to spend it elsewhere, or kind of slide it in. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other, but I do think you need to give Alan direction of what he can do, at this time.
I'm in favor of a simple, small start.
25,000.
Okay.
Okay.
I
Ben?
agree.
I agree too. Bill? There you go.
Thank you very much. That's what I needed.
Not worth to be flexible for y'all. I'm, paying the taxes, so
Yeah.
there's some basic things that are kind of
What,
locked in pieces, and then, some hourly, type of capabilities.
what's your address? Because we can send you a separate tax bill.
Let's see.
No, anyway, we need to go forward with this, obviously, get more aggressive with it.
Sir.
Between you and M3. I mean, they have our computers pretty much. It sounds like they're under control, but we need to protect our assets and make sure we're at a good level, safe level, that we feel secure.
Sir.
Because if they're attacking, as I said, out in West Texas, I mean, what's it to say they don't, come to another small community somewhere else?
Yeah, as y'all know, with other larger incidents in the fire and police side, the thing that we talk about at TEEX when we're training is, we never like to talk about the CNN truck showing up at front door, but, we want to avoid that also, or be prepared. And my thing is, are we prepared for that? Those types of things, even if they don't show up. So.
And Kevin, look, personally, for what it's worth, I like the fact that we've got Trophy Club residents considering this because they live here, they pay taxes, our infrastructure affects them, and I just personally like that.
We know where to find him.
Yeah.
No problem.
I
No
mean
problem.
that for you too as well, Michael.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Michael.
Two good presentations, well, three with Linda and stuff. Yeah, we're going to take how about 10 minutes? You want to do 10? It is 8:32, and we'll return at 8:42. Back in the regular session. You guys ready? Okay, thanks. Okay, we're on agenda number 7. Consider an act to adopt resolution number 2024-0918A as in alpha, approving budget for fiscal year 2025. Does anyone want to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion. Make a motion to adopt resolution number 2024-0918A, approving budget for fiscal year 2025.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it. I looked at that pretty hard this afternoon.
Okay. We have a motion by Secretary Treasurer Harper and a second by Director Thomas. Do I have any discussion?
Kevin?
Okay, Bill?
I move to amend the budget for fiscal year 2025 to increase the MUD employees' salaries and wages in the historical manner by including a 3% merit pay increase and a 5% cost of living increase based on the local consumer price index, and then add an additional 1% for the creation of a fund to be used under the pay for performance concept for employees. Changes to budget line items based on salaries and wages, which will require adjustment based on this motion, are also approved without specific reference. Furthermore, funding for this amendment that is not currently included in this evening's rate order shall come from reserves until new rates are calculated and approved. If I get a second, I'll speak to it.
Any second? I see none, so the amendment fails. We have a motion.
I have an amendment.
Excuse me?
I have an amendment.
Another one?
Yes.
Okay.
I move that all employees receive a uniform cost of living increase in the budget for fiscal year 2025. If I get a second, I'll speak to it.
Do you have a percentage?
There's been no second.
Well, I'm just asking you for
There's
clarification.
been no second to the motion.
Okay. Any second to that motion? I see none. That fails too.
Okay.
You have another one?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I move that all employees with a positive performance review, except those with compensations at or above a salary survey maximum, receive a merit pay increase.
And
If I get a second, I'll
that's your
speak to
third
it.
amendment? It's a merit increase is what it is? I didn't catch all of that. So.
I'll read it again. I move that all employees with a positive pay performance review, except those with compensation at or above a salary survey maximum, receive a merit pay increase.
Okay. Do I have a second for that amendment? I see none. That fails.
Okay?
Another one?
Stand by. I move that a fund be created for exceptional meritorious employee performance under the pay performance concept. If I get a second, I'll speak to it.
Second on that one? That fails.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, back to the original motion. We had a motion by Secretary Treasurer Harper, second by Director Thomas. And I just had some questions with the manager regarding the fire overtime and part-time salary. If you add them both together, from what we calculated, it's like $350,000 for overtime and then part-time salary. Part-time salary is the people that go on the list and, are pulled in if there's overtime, and then overtime is $250,000 in salary employees overtime. He explained it to my the best that I understood it, and it could be moved around to $50,000. Obviously, is a placeholder. It's been passed on every year. We have not met that, and as the way the town manager explained to me is they hope that the salary employee amount would be dropping down, because if you bring the part-time in, it's a little bit cheaper. And then we added the 6th firefighter too this year, so I just wanted to pass that out to everybody to let them know. I'm not changing anything. So we do have a motion, we have a second, and I'll call all in favor, show of hands. Okay, we have Secretary Treasurer Harper, Vice President Brewster, myself, Director Thomas, 4, all opposed. I have Director Rose opposing, so it passes. Okay, 8, consider an act to adopt rate order number 2024-0918A as an alpha, amending water and sewer rates and setting an effective date of October 1st, 2024. Does anyone want to make a motion on that one?
I'll make a motion to adopt the rate order number 2024-0918A, amending the water and sewer rates and setting an effective date of October 1st, 2024.
Pam, is it required that we mention those rates, or?
No, it's not.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I have a motion by Secretary Treasurer Harper. Do I have a second? I'll second.
Go ahead.
You gonna second it?
No.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second by Vice President Brewster. Any discussion? I see none. All in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Okay, moving right along. Consider an act to adopt order number 2024-0918, B as in boy, fixing and levying Trophy Club Municipal Utility Tax, number 1 debt service tax rate, and operations and maintenance tax rate for 2024 tax year. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make a motion. Motion to adopt order number 2024-0918B, fixing and levying Trophy Club Municipal Utility District number 1, debt service tax rate of 0.00799 on each $100 of taxable value on all taxable property within the district, and operations and maintenance tax rate of 0.05451 on each $100 of taxable property value within the district for 2024 tax year.
Okay, I have a motion by Secretary Treasurer Harper. Do I have a second for that? I'll second it. Okay, so Doug made a motion, I second it for the record. Good motion, by the way. Okay, any discussion? I see none, all in favor, raise, show of hands, unanimous. Okay, 10, consider and act to adopt resolution 2024-0918B, approving 2024 tax roll for Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1. Do you have a motion?
Yeah, motion to adopt Resolution 2024-0918B, approving the 2024 tax roll for Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1.
I'd second that one.
Okay, I have a motion by Secretary Treasurer Harper, a second by Director Thomas. Any discussion?
I have a substitute motion I'd like to make.
Okay,
I move to approve Resolution 2024-0918B, approving the 2024 tax roll for Trophy Club Municipal District Number 1. The Board of Directors approved tax rate of 0.06251 per $100 assessed value being imposed on each property included on the certified appraised rolls for the district for the 2024 tax year. Totals $1,701,057 tax levy. The board hereby declares that the appraisal rolls with amounts of tax entered shall constitute the district's tax roll for the 2024 tax year.
okay, so you just added the,
If I get a second, I'll discuss it.
I'll
I'll
second.
second that. Yeah.
Okay, Secretary Treasurer Harper second his amendment, okay?
It does add the other information that's historically carried forward in the motions.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, we're voting on the amendment.
It's a substitute motion.
It's substitute motion, thank you. Okay, so we don't have to go back to the original motion, is that correct? It's a substitute
That's correct.
motion? Yeah, okay. This is voting on a substitute motion as stated. All in favor?
Don't you need a second on it?
Yeah.
I got a second to discuss it.
You got that right, Lori? All, yeah, show of hands, it was unanimous. You got Doug second, right? Okay. Okay, 11, consider an act to approve the amendment to the district information form, including notice to purchaser form. Could you explain this?
Yes, so this form is required by the district to update every single year with the tax rate information. When someone purchases a property within Trophy Club Municipal Utility District boundary area, they are provided this document letting them know what the district can assess on their property. This is updated annually as part of the budget process.
All this is just putting the new numbers in, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
We don't
I
keep
would-
them guessing?
Huh?
We don't keep them guessing?
No, sir.
Okay. Everybody understand the motion? Okay, I'll read it one more time, and then I'll ask for a motion. Consider an act to approve the amendment to the district information form, including notice to purchaser form, as our general manager just explained. I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve?
Okay. Vice President Brewster makes a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Damn, you're hot tonight. Secretary Treasurer Harper, discussion?
I move a substitute motion. I move to approve the amendment to the district information form, including notice to purchaser form, showing the total Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1 tax levy of 0.06250 per $100 of taxable value. If I get a second, I'll speak to it.
Okay, where'd you get in the agenda item, it's 0.05451. Did you add
Page
the other?
7-1.
Yeah, but you added the two together, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know if you're going to break them down, but that's
No.
fine. Okay, everybody understand the
Substitute.
substitute motion?
No.
You don't?
I-
Okay, if you take what's in the agenda on page
I'm looking at the numbers now.
68-140, it's just adding the two, the .05451, and then if you look at the last debt services, .00799.
Why is it necessary to do that?
You don't, he just added them together and made the motion. It's a dollar amount. You try and, it's not required, as I asked Pam earlier, but it's best that for people looking at what the motion was to understand what the numbers were, like when he made his last substitute.
This is the
breakdown.
historical way the motion's been made
Yeah,
for about the last 8
but
years.
you don't have to do it. It's
Yeah.
just good, I agree, that it's nice that if someone were looking back at the minutes, they would know the numbers.
I agree. I think it's nice to have a number there.
Yeah, okay, so we have a substitute motion on the table right now, okay? Do I have a
With
second on the substitute?
You got the second, I think, because we were discussing. You must have gotten a second because we
No,
were
there's no,
discussing.
Oh,
there
yeah,
was
who
no
did the
second.
No second? I'm
There was
sorry.
no second.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have Vice President Brewster seconding it. Any further discussion? Okay. I think we made a motion on the first one, and then you said you had a substitute. That's where you got confused. Okay, we have a motion by Director Rose, a second by Vice President Brewster. Everybody understand the numbers? And this is the substitute motion we're voting on. All in favor, show of hands. Okay, unanimous passes. Okay, that would mean that we're on 12. Okay, consider an act regarding annual review of district investment policy and investment strategies, including A, adopt order number 2024-0918C, approving amended and restated investment policy, including the district's investment strategies and appointment of investment officers. Alan, you want to explain that real quick? And
This is part of the investment policy, is to bring it to the board every year for a review, and so that's what this is doing here tonight.
okay, everybody understand that? You probably haven't read the investment policy, but it hasn't changed much.
We saw the training certificates
Correct.
in
Oh,
our packet.
got a certificate.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll save Doug the trouble here this evening. I move to adopt order number 2024-0918C, approving amended and restated investment policy, including the district's investment strategies and appointment of Alan Formanton and Regina Van Dyke as investment officers.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Rose, a second by Secretary Treasurer Harper, and this is a yay or nay one, isn't it?
Not though, no.
In the
No, it's a-
in the thing, it says ayes and nays in here.
Just got the yeas and the nays one at a time.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Whoever, the roll call will be counted if anybody opposes.
I'm just going to oppose it because I want to be a nay. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor, show of hands. I guess you got all nays. Nay. Okay. 13, consider an act to adopt resolution number 2024-0918C, approving cash reserve policy.
The directors, by policy, the board is to review the cash reserve policy biennial. However, we've been including it as part of the annual budget process approval in September. And so what we've done is provided you with an updated balance of where the cash reserves are currently. And it's up to you all if you wanted to make any changes or review anything further. So what we've done is we've provided you two visual representations. The one on the back is the older bar chart that has been previously utilized for representation. We tried to modify that slightly and went to more of a pie chart for visual representation. We feel like this is a good way of explaining where the money lies. And so here for your review. And if there's any changes that you'd like to make, this would be the time to do so.
So total is 10,396, 131.
Correct.
Okay.
And these are based off of the operating reserves modified during last year's cash policy review.
And it says here that the district assets are 119,899,302.
Yes.
Cash reserve standards.
Yes.
Okay. And how we doing on the cash deposits? Are we refunding the people over so many years, or?
Say
When they
again?
come in and do a deposit, a new account.
Okay.
Okay, what's the time frame again?
It's a 2-year time frame.
2 years,
After
okay.
2 years of good payment, then they'll reimburse that to the account.
And then if they miss payments or something, they go back on
Correct.
the bad list.
Correct.
Everybody understand the reserve policy?
I have a question. This is one of those issues that I lose every year. When we do after we've done the audit, everything's all balanced out, then we can look at where we put funds into the reserves, is that correct?
No, you can do that right now, but.
I don't know, I wouldn't have any, I could move them around, but I don't have any money that I know of to put in it.
Well, and that's part of what we're trying to show you is that the majority of our funding is set aside currently the way that we have it. And the only major place you can move around, in our opinion, would be the rehabilitation and replacement reserves. But a lot of that has to do with the water sales this summer. We've got some over collection on the sewer side purposefully going into this next year, but it shows a good, healthy funding side. So if we have a major project that we want to go ahead and bring to the board's attention, we could use that replacement and reserves to do so.
Yeah, but I don't see any reason, looking at the graphs, I don't see any reason to do a rebalancing at this point.
Correct.
I mean, debt service reserves are a little bit high, but the thing about debt service reserves is sometimes those things are high for a reason. Because you may have funding in there that's, I want to say held, but that's not the right term.
Well, and what we believe, the prior debt covenants and reserves were that high due to prior bonds
Okay.
that were outstanding.
Okay.
And since those bonds have been paid for,
The
then
fees.
our balance doesn't have to be that high, but the money still remains.
Okay.
Any
Okay.
other questions?
Would we have, the money, that excess money that now remains, do we have access to that? Because generally speaking, money in that kitty is, you don't have access to it.
Typically, money in that pool would be used to repay or defease
Yeah.
bonds, correct?
So it would stay in there, but what we're saying is we have a little excess in there now. If we wanted to, we could move that excess off to someplace else.
I don't know about that. We'd have to verify since it was collected specifically for a debt purpose.
Oh,
We would have
okay.
to verify that.
Okay, because we might have to use it for the same
If it's
purpose.
collected specifically for a debt, you have to use it towards the debt payment.
Okay.
That's my understanding. We have to verify that.
This reminds me of the funds that were associated with the SWIFT funding too, I think was what it was over on that pipeline.
Correct. And right now, there are, forgive me, Regina, it's on the cash balance. It's the escrow. The escrow money that's remaining, and actually, we're in the process of trying to get that cleared out and approved by Texas Water Development Board. Once they approve the release of that money, we're going to use that money to pay back towards the debt as well.
Okay.
We can't move that money anywhere
Except to the
except for
debt.
paying back to the debt, correct?
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Satisfied?
Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I need to get a motion.
If you're taking no action, then Pam, do they need to make any motion?
Are they not taking action?
No, we've already,
Okay, no, you don't have to.
Okay.
Have a motion.
this 13
It's
would
good,
be,
wait a minute.
13 would be no action.
If you're not taking any action, I don't think you have to do any motions or second.
I was going to adopt a resolution and not take any other action.
I don't know that you do because you're not changing anything, Pam.
Okay,
Well, you certainly can.
okay, well, let me do that just to make sure everything's clear. I move to adopt resolution number 2024-0918C.
Proven cash reserve policy.
Yeah, approving cash reserve policy.
Okay, we have a motion by
I'll
Director
second it.
Rowe. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second.
Thomas beat you.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I'll get you next time. Okay. Okay, we have a motion by Director Rose, a second by Director Thomas, and for the record, I retracted the no action on this item to a vote, okay?
Yeah.
I originally said no action, and then we decided to do a motion.
And,
Okay, so,
and for
yeah.
discussion, the reason I did the motion is if we have a requirement to review it every 2 years, it's now in the records that we reviewed it.
I
and We're
agree.
good for 2 years.
Yeah, and plus it was written here, so we have to do what she writes on that agenda, right? Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? I see
I
none.
got a question
Okay.
about the bonds. Are there bonds that we could pay off
We would have to look, if you did, you would probably still have to pay accrued interest up to a certain date and time.
Could we look at that and you could just report it in your manager report? See if we can get rid of any bonds.
Maybe not pay them off, but pay them down.
Okay? Okay, any other discussion?
I don't know.
All in favor, show of hands. Okay, unanimous.
I don't know about paying off
Okay.
bonds.
14, consider and take appropriate action regarding banking and depository matters. Approval of resolution number 2024-0918D as in Delta, authorizing the extension of term of depository pledge agreement with Prosperity Bank.
Directors, our current depository bank is Prosperity, and our agreement with them expires at the end of September, correct? And so what this will do, give another 2-year term with a possible 2-year extension after
You
that.
jumped 13.
No.
This is the final.
This is the last extension? Okay, this is the last extension, my apologies.
Have to go out for bid.
Jump 14 now.
Yeah. Okay, everybody understand that? We have a term that expires at the end of September with Prosperity, and this is another 2 years with a possible 2 years on top of that. Is that right?
It's just a 2-year extension at this time.
Okay, 2
sorry
years
about that.
extension. Everybody understand that? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt resolution number 2024-0918D, authorizing the extension of the term of the depository pledge agreement with Prosperity Bank.
And that's the one in Roanoke, correct?
Their branches.
Or do we deal with other
That's
branches?
Keller.
We do Keller and Roanoke,
Okay,
correct?
well, just Prosperity Bank covers it. Okay, we have a motion by Secretary Treasurer Harper. Do I have a second? I'll second. Any discussion? I see none. All in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Okay, we're on 15. Consider an act regarding approval of task order agreement with Half Associates for professional engineering services for the replacement of the existing water lines and authorize the general manager to execute the necessary documents to implement the board action.
Directors, this is our annual water line replacement program. This is the engineering portion of that. And what we're requesting tonight is you all execute or allow the execution of this so we can begin design in October with the hopes of beginning construction in May of next year as part of our CIP program.
Is there a dollar associated with their engineering services?
Yes, $110,500. That's a not to exceed amount.
Okay, I see that now.
Recommendation section.
Right, I see that. They're already doing water lines on Glen Eagles Court?
No, we have not gone there yet.
That's in this deal though, right?
Yes, we're fixing to design, and I can go ahead and state it, but it's approximately 8,500 linear feet of water lines along and adjacent to Indian Creek Drive, Brook Hollow Lane, St. Andrews Court, Lake Forest Court, Turnberry Court, Glen Eagles Court, Alamosa Drive, Monterey Drive, and Silver Rock Drive. And the portions of Indian Creek will essentially go from the intersection at Trophy Club Drive down to almost the townhomes? Almost to the townhomes. And so this will take out 2 major sections we had major issues with last year. The 14-inch that blew out, this will address that and replace that water main. And then also along Alamosa Drive where we had 3 or 4 just last summer. We're trying to hit the hot spots as best we can.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve the task order agreement dated September 18th, 2024 with Half Associates for professional engineering services for the replacement of approximately 8,500 linear feet of the existing water lines at a total cost not to exceed $110,500, and to authorize the general manager to execute the necessary documents to implement board action.
Good motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Secretary Treasurer Harper and a second by Director Rose. Any further discussion? I see none. All in favor, show of hands. Unanimous.
Doug's showing some real promise tonight.
No, that's the most I've heard him say out of any meeting, man. Okay, he's doing good motions, too. 16, are we on? Yeah, 16. Consider an act regarding approval of work order agreement with Pipeline Analysis LLC for professional engineering services related to the district wastewater collection system, and authorize the general manager to execute the necessary documents to implement board action.
Directors, as a reminder, this is the fifth year of our condition assessment efforts that we're working through as part of our sanitary sewer overflow initiative. And what this is going to do is approximately smoke test, clean, and CCT, of approximately 37,300 linear feet of pipe, and inspection of approximately 169 manholes. As a reminder, this is what helps us determine what kind of capital needs we're looking at in current and future budget years.
And this is going to cost 230.02, correct?
Not to exceed, yes.
Not to exceed. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
I move to approve work order agreement with Pipeline Analysis LLC for professional engineering service related to the district wastewater collection system in an amount not to exceed $200,230.02, and authorize the general manager to execute the necessary documents to implement the action.
okay, I have a motion by Director Rose. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, and I'll laugh at the 2 cents.
Okay, and then we have a second by Director Thomas. Any further discussion?
Let me round it up.
I see none. Show of hands, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. Okay, 17, discussion possible action regarding drought contingency and emergency water management plan. This is by Vice President Brewster.
Thank you. Several months ago, we pulled a water report on town usage of potable water. And Alan, if I recall, it was over 30 million gallons. And the question is, should we start talking to the town at some time about changing to recycled water?
I have a question,
Yes?
if I can interject. How does this relate to the drought contingency and emergency water management plan?
Well, if you go to page 127, and we look at non-essential water use, uses that are neither essential nor required for protection of public health, safety, and welfare, including irrigation of landscape areas, including parks, athletic fields, it mentions golf courses, but except otherwise provided under this plan, areas using recycled water or water sources not supplied by the district are excluded. So recycled water is being used by the golf courses or the golf course, but the parks, athletic fields, and other areas that the town is responsible for using potable water. And the question is straightforward. Do we want to start talking to the town about conservation issues and the possible change of recycled water?
Yeah,
Because when we get to stage 2 and 3, if you read to the end of the contingency plan, the restrictions are pretty solid, and fines go up dramatically in stage 3.
so in other words, the drought comes from the last paragraph, which says unless the drought management plan is initiated, so that's where it ties together. We're good, Pam?
Yes.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Bill?
Not really.
Not really, but
It looks to me like it's off agenda,
but
but
I'm like you on emergency, but
Yeah,
it does
it's-
mention the drought
Right.
It
management.
falls in line with drought contingency plans.
Okay, so we continue
seems to me it would have
discussion.
been a separate agenda item specifically addressing town and those particular items opposed, but.
Okay,
I think
continue
it's-
on.
I think
Okay.
it's outside the agenda, but go ahead.
I'm just starting the conversation, Bill, and I appreciate your questions on this. So,
But Ben, during the majority of the year, doesn't the country club buy 100% of the
Well, it does. That's good, good point. For about 3 months out of the year, the country club requires 100% of our recycled water.
So I guess what I'm saying is, those 3 months, theoretically, December, January, and February, what would the town do to water in those months? I mean, their grass is not growing just like the country club's grass is not growing.
Well, that's correct. The town is going to need recycled water at the same time that the country club does. Country club takes priority. We're pumping about 950,000 gallons of recycled per day into Lake A and B. The idea would be to entertain the enlarging Lake A's capacity, or finding another place to retain water. In casual conversation, somebody mentioned the 7 acres behind the wastewater treatment facility for a detention pond that could be used by the town. Somebody else mentioned increasing the country club's detention capacity and then tapping into their lines that run close to the big users, the large parks and fields. Simply here for getting people to start thinking about whether this should be taken more seriously.
Yeah, if it's a feasible.
It's a long-range planning kind of step.
Remember, I mean, you remember this, remember, we offered to take care of Harmony Park on the irrigation, remember? And the town didn't want to do anything on it before they built all those houses back there. And then another deal is when they developed the PID, there's supposed to be a retention pond there, and they never came across that either.
They built the retention pond. The retention pond is back down down the hill.
Yeah, but
It's supposed to have a fountain in it and all that.
Yeah.
And then and it was supposed to have a well in it.
Right,
And I
it
don't know
was.
whether the well was put in and then it's sanded in.
Right.
Or silted
That's
in,
just
or
good.
something happened.
they
And
couldn't
they
go
said,
down.
we can't do this. And so
Yeah.
they went back and went to fresh water rather
Right,
than using
right. But,
that.
I mean, it comes down to, I think, what Vice President Brewster's alluding to is let's, talk about it, see if it's a path we want to go down. And if it is, then we can put a plan together. But right now, it's just open a door, which I guess it would, me as a resident, I see the medians in the parks being watered all the time. Off days, Mondays, anything, and then with a day, they're watering medians, and it could be raining, and there's water going off. So it's like, okay, how much is the town actually spending in water usage? They probably are 2 or 3 customer. And maybe me as a resident, they could save their water usage. But then you have to offset it, like, okay, how much does it take to put the plumbing in? That's the big thing, is putting the plumbing in.
Well, Kevin, I'm in agreement with Ben, if, I hate throwing any water into Lake Grapevine.
Yeah.
But can we start discussions with the town on, because they gotta spend the money to retain the
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, we're just
But
a supplier
sure, I
of
think
it.
we ought to talk to them.
Yeah. I don't think it hurts. I mean, it comes back to, buying IT equipment. If we can pool our resources, then we save money. Same with the water. I hate to see the water, fresh water at least, being put on the medians. And what they could do possibly, I don't know every hole on the golf course, but there's land where the golf course comes close to a road, so you'd save the money on the piping. But I mean, I'd leave it to Alan or Mike or something to say, okay, can you put a valve in there where they can draw off fresh water versus effluent? That's not possible.
This is going to take an actual plan and study. This is going to be a significant cost to
Well,
determine.
this is the first step. Another thing it would take, if you're tapping off the piping from the country club, you're going to need a pump to provide the pressure to get it to the medians.
There's line locations, there's storage issues,
kinds
there's
of
pumping
Yeah,
issues,
and
there's
that's-
you've got
yeah.
a finite source. And how do you store that for the months that Mr. Brewster was referring to, that you've got peak use when both the town and or the country club by contract has full authority to? So you've got to create another location to store that water, wherever it's coming from, whether it's rainwater, whether it's stormwater, you got to have another something to store that.
Well, I think, as Jim mentioned, it doesn't hurt to talk about it, and then it might take one meeting and go, hey, this doesn't make any sense at all, it's too expensive, and be done with it. It doesn't hurt to open the door.
In my mind, when you talk about digging a hole, putting water in it, letting it evaporate and run out through the soil, and how large a hole you're going to dig, it's not like you can go out and build a dam someplace. You're talking about digging a hole in the ground. I can't see that this passes any cost-benefit ratio, especially when you turn around and say, I've already got a customer that uses 100% during this time frame, and you don't get to use it then. And they're going to say, well, but that's when I want to use the water too.
Yeah, but that, I mean, again, I'm not
Yeah, so it's
agreeing or
just-
disagreeing, but it
They would
doesn't
have
hurt
to
to
store it in off
talk.
months when they could use it in on months.
Yeah, and you're talking about a large quantity of acres of water.
Oh, we have those four lots. I don't know how big they are, as far as, is it 4 acres that they add up to, or how big is that area behind the treatment plant?
Seven,
They would be- it would-
I think it's about 7 acres, isn't it?
Okay, 7 acres. How much does it cost to build a storage tank?
Oh, 7 acres total. Is it
was
7 acres total?
$1 million per, when you built these storage tanks here, it was $1 million per million. It was $1 million per million gallons, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
You-
But
you know,
again,
we
how
built
much
them-
is the town spending? I'm,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Well,
hurt.
Kevin, Bill's on the right point, and that is, it's wonderful to start the conversation with the town. Chances are, it's not going to be financially justifiable.
That's
But
why I said it might be
that's
one
not for us
meeting.
to determine.
Yeah.
The town's got to make that determination. So we can beat this thing to death tonight to no avail, other than let's just start a conversation with the town, see if there's any interest.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to carry it any farther. I think, I appreciate the response to it, but if the board agrees, have Alan have coffee with the town manager
Yeah,
and just bring it
I
up
mean,
as a topic of
I don't-
discussion.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about this any longer, because Alan talking to Brandon might take it less time, you know?
Yeah,
You're
it
just,
could be.
You're just trying to find out if the town is willing to entertain
Yeah.
even looking at this.
Discussions, right?
But
They're using
with,
potable water,
Right.
and it's going to be valuable at some point.
yeah, and just with the knowledge that it's their decision. It's not us that is going to build a retention pond or anything. It's to save them money.
Now, back to Bill's original point. If you look at the action item number 17, isn't this drought contingency exactly the same that we already have in place?
No, drought contingency is a
This plan.
different deal. It relates to it. If you read the page 129, it references the drought. I think it's 129, but it goes.
Response, yeah.
Yeah, but we were able to talk about it
How they
based
made it.
on, it relates to the drought, so.
The advantage of the discussion of what Ben's bringing up is the fact that in the case of the drought, affluent water is not under the drought emergency plan. It's accepted out right off the bat. So what you're saying is that, if this occurs, you're going to be able to continue watering. If you don't need it when the golf course needs it.
Yeah. Okay, we're
Yeah,
going way
go
too
ahead.
far now.
Okay.
We don't have a motion yet give, we can just give Alan direction, correct?
I think he's got his direction.
Yeah, do you
Yeah.
have it?
You don't need any action.
Okay,
I have a
Thank
comment
you.
about this
A
plan.
response in the.
yeah.
I did a search on this drought contingency emergency water management plan, and it refers to golf 10 times as getting fresh water, potable water. And that's not right, because the golf course doesn't get any
Yes,
potable
they
water.
do.
But
get
what you have to
potable water.
understand, if I can interrupt, what you have to understand, and I've got, if you go to Fort Worth Water, they have a drought contingency plan. By contract, we're required to follow their drought contingency plan. Now, ours is written a little bit different than theirs, because theirs is written with broader terms sometimes, talking about town managers and that type of stuff. And so ours has been detailed. But having said all of that, when I was looking at if the affluent phrase, let me run down to that real quick, it's not far down here. Okay, so this this is from Fort Worth. You don't have this. This is from Fort Worth. It says, "This plan does not apply to locations using treated wastewater effluent, private wells, or processing their own water rights in the Trinity River. However, any pond, impoundment, body of water, or other water source that is supplemented or has the ability to supplement supply with portable water shall adhere to these provisions of this plan." So what that says, I mean, first of all, ours is not exactly like that. I don't know that it has to be, but I'm not sure that ours talks about wells, private wells. I'd have to pull it back up, look at it. But anyway, what this says is if you've got a pond that you've been putting affluent water into, and you run 5 gallons of fresh water into it, all that water is fresh water as far as they're concerned and has to follow the plan. It's like, okay, guys.
I think Alan's almost done his coffee and donuts, so we need to move on.
Yeah,
So just so the board
Ellen,
knows.
do you have any reservations about
I don't.
entertaining
We'll
this?
start with the conversation. I will let him know the general understanding of the request and see if
Yeah.
there's interest. And if not, then I'll relay it back to the board during one of our correspondence. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay,
During
thank
the
you.
weekly update would be great.
That's fine.
Okay, that was number 17. We're on 18 now, and it's executive session. Pursuant to Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, the board will convene into executive session to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee. General manager annual evaluation. It is 9:29, and we will go into executive session at this time.
Okay.
Okay, it is 11:46, and we are reconvening into regular session. And there's no discussion of the executive session on the evaluation. Is that correct, Pam?
That's correct.
Okay, no action, thank you. We're up to number 20, future agenda items. I asked Alan to include in his manager report a section that we can identify as a board for him to partake in if it comes up as far as like July 4th or something like that.
On the
An event schedule?
Yeah, just have, if you want to call it event scheduling or something like that, just add, how do you want it labeled?
are you're talking about the monthly report in the packet?
Yeah, no, like our meetings, when you do your general, or your manager report, if we could just add an item for like what events that the board would like you to attend.
Oh, okay. All right, I got you.
Okay?
Yeah, we can add that on there.
Yeah. Like my birthday party or something, but I already had it last week, so you missed it.
You want an item there in that operational reports to talk about community events?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and whether we want the MUD to participate in it or anything. Anybody have anything else on that one? Anyone? Bueller? No, okay, nothing. Okay. You got all that one item, Lori? Okay. How come it says future agenda? I didn't need to read that right on 20. 21 is items for future agenda.
No, you didn't need to read 20.
Okay. So items for 21 is items for future agenda, and we already talked about that. Next regular meeting is October 16th, 2024.
Can't change it.
What?
We can't change that date.
I'm not asking, I'm just saying, is everybody okay with that date? Not
I am.
that, not that
It's
it
not the
matters.
normal date?
That's the normal date.
Okay,
Just early voting starts.
yeah, okay.
Okay,
And I think because of other scheduling, we had to leave it on that date too, I think, if I'm
okay.
right.
Anybody have anything else?
No, sir.
I see none. It is 11:49, and we are adjourned.